Chapter 705. Tianxiong, Zhu Yu As he scanned the crowd, a familiar figure appeared in front of him. A woman wearing a white dress with a colorful ribbon on her arm suddenly appeared on the island along with a ray of divine light. A strange fragrance naturally wafted in all directions, and her body naturally emitted a kind of charm that could turn all living things upside down. Her face was covered with a snow-white veil, covering her beautiful face. On her shoulder stood an emperor phoenix with 3 divine feathers on its tail. Beside her was a little girl. The girl's eyes darted around, looking around randomly. She seemed to be exceptionally quick-witted. It's brother-in-law. The little girl's eyes suddenly widened. Seeing Di Shitian standing at the edge of the crowd, she couldn't help but shout in surprise. Whoosh! As soon as she finished speaking, she saw a ray of colorful light streak across the sky, appearing beside Di Shitian at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye, and cheerfully flew in circles around him. She let out a crisp chirp, appearing unusually excited. After circling around him for an unknown number of times, she finally landed on his shoulder and affectionately pecked at his hair. Haha. You've grown up. Di Shitian looked at Di and a strange light flashed in his eyes. He could feel that there was a power hidden in her body that was no less than 100 times stronger than when he first entered the Myriad Tribulations cave abode. Moreover, the 3 divine feathers behind her were shining with divine light, and even he could faintly feel a trace of danger. It was as if all the divine light in the world was absorbed into the divine feathers. Strong. Very strong. She probably already had a powerful battle strength that was not inferior to a 9th transformation demon core. Brother-in-law. A delicate figure jumped into his arms, and Zhua called out with a smile, Zhua looks like you. Brother-in-law, you don't know, but Zhua was almost bullied by some bad guys. You didn't help me. If anyone dares to bully our Zhua, tell brother-in-law, and brother-in-law will stand up for you. Di Shitian heard this and looked at her with a faint smile. He was shocked once again. This little girl's cultivation had reached the 8th transformation demon core. Furthermore, there was a domineering flame hidden within his body. Obviously, he had a rather fortuitous encounter in the cave this time. Brother-in-law, Zhu will tell you a secret. Zhu giggled as a crafty look flashed in the corner of her eyes. Suddenly, she moved her mouth close to Di Shitian's ear and said, Brother-in-law, Zhu saw a very handsome human cultivator trying to woo big sister Tianxiong. She pestered her sister, saying that she wanted to take her sister as a concubine. Brother-in-law, you have to be careful. What? Di Shitian's eyes suddenly shot out 2 threatening beams of light. An inexplicable anger rose in his heart. It turned into flames that wanted to burn his divine soul. An intense killing intent rose in his heart, almost uncontrollably. Zhu, what nonsense are you spouting? Bai Hu, who was walking over, seemed to have heard Zhu's words. Her face, which was covered by the veil, couldn't help but blush. She anxiously rolled her eyes at Zhu. She hurriedly said, Shitian, don't misunderstand. That was just a human expert who came out of nowhere. His cultivation was extremely high. I was entangled by him and couldn't get away at all. Fortunately, I had a fortuitous encounter later and got rid of him. There is nothing between me and him. Although she was anxious to explain, her innermost feelings were clearly revealed. If she didn't care about Di Shitian's opinion, she wouldn't be nervous about whether he would misunderstand. Experts of the human race? Did he say who he was? Di Shitian asked thoughtfully. Haha, madman Di, you have to be careful. Someone wants to steal your wife. Ming laughed and teased in the nether prison. I told you long ago that in this world, as long as you have the ability, strength, and status, it is very normal for you to have several wives and concubines. Moreover, you are cultivating the emperor's path. As a demon emperor and demon empress, Chen Shi does indeed have the grace of a mother model. However, how can he not have a few demon concubines? In my opinion, this little fox's character and appearance are enough to be a demon concubine. He who strikes first gains the advantage, and he who strikes last suffers. Shut up. Di Shitian scolded in his mind. I'm not too sure. Bai Hu frowned slightly and said thoughtfully, He seems to have said that he is the mansion master of Beiming Prefecture, Carefree King. His cultivation is unfathomable. There seemed to be a trace of worry between her eyebrows. Beiming Prefecture? Carefree King? Di Shitian muttered to himself as he frantically searched for these two pieces of information in his mind. However, he found that he had no idea what kind of power Beiming Prefecture was or who Carefree King was. He couldn't help but secretly remember it. Naturally, a strong sense of enmity arose. Beiming Prefecture? Carefree King? Why haven't I heard of this power before? Ming was also curious and said strangely, I've searched the souls of tens of millions of cultivators, but they have no memory of Beiming Prefecture. When did such a power appear in the human race? It's really strange. However, there is a sea on the source continent called Beiming Sea. Perhaps it has something to do with this place. Back then, the heavenly punishment divine I had captured tens of millions of cultivators' souls. Under various tortures, they had not only revealed all their cultivation methods, but also all kinds of secret histories. This allowed Ming to fill in the blanks after he was sealed in the ancient times, as well as the knowledge and understanding of various major powers. He was confident that he already had a considerable understanding of the various major forces in the myriad worlds. But what kind of existence was the North Nether Mansion? He had no recollection of it at all. Who cares if Beiming Prefecture is strong or not? It's fine if they don't provoke I. If they really come, no matter how strong they are, I'll still beat them to pieces. Di Shitian thought for a while. After he had no clue, he could only put all these thoughts in his heart for the time being. When he got out, he would instruct Big Rat of the Demon Guard to send scouts to monitor the universe. He didn't believe that he couldn't find Beiming Prefecture. Only then did he carefully look at Baihu. He couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Baihu had also reached the 9th transformation realm of the demon core. His cultivation base was extremely exquisite. Tianxiang, congratulations. 9th transformation realm of the demon core, I'm afraid you're not far from breaking through to the ancient demon saint realm. Although he was surprised, he wasn't jealous at all. Instead, he was happy. The higher Baihu's cultivation was, the stronger the demon clan would be. He couldn't help but smile and congratulate her. Haha, brother-in-law, you didn't expect this, did you? Zhuo said slyly, let me tell you, Sister Tianxiang got a great opportunity this time. She just happened to enter the ancient tomb of an ancient heavenly fox clan senior and got the inheritance of that senior. Now, she's so powerful. Even those immortal emperors were all killed in front of Sister Tianxiang. They were so mesmerized by the illusion that they even lost their minds. With Zhu, this lively little bird, chattering non-stop, she spilled out everything that had happened to them along the way, just like pouring beans out of her head. It turned out that Baihu had entered the water spirit world. Inside, there was a world of ice and snow everywhere. There were all kinds of treasures of the water attribute, just like in the metal spirit world. There were almost as many as the stars in the sky. There were also all kinds of ferocious beasts. After killing the ferocious beasts, one could obtain the embryos of the heavens and earth. However, almost all of these embryos leaned towards the water attribute. There was a lot of killing. In the water spirit realm, there was also a tomb. There were also thousands of ancient tombs in the tomb. The white fox was also lucky. In the ancient tomb, it felt the aura of its people and found the tomb of an ancient ancestor of the heavenly fox clan. That tomb was also the tomb of a venerable. The owner of the tomb was called Bai Ling. As a member of the heavenly fox clan, as a venerable, a trace of Bai Ling's soul was not completely destroyed. If nothing unexpected happened, it could almost be like the venerable ghost and be reborn again. However, the strange thing was that Bai Ling didn't actually take over Tianxiang's body. Instead, it gave her the inheritance. What happened at that time was a mystery. Baihu naturally knew, but Zhuo didn't reveal anything even when she asked. After obtaining the inheritance and a few lost treasures, Baihu's current strength could be said to be several times stronger. As for Zhu, she entered the fire spirit world. Inside, she encountered a vermilion bird tomb. Not only did she completely transform into a vermilion bird, but she also obtained the kindling of the Nanming primordial fire. Her strength also increased greatly. Yu was even more magical. Under an inexplicable summon, she saw the corpse of the Emperor Phoenix that was killed by Myriad Calamity Ancestor. She obtained the remaining power of the Emperor Phoenix and underwent a transformation. She also obtained the supreme cultivation method of the Emperor Phoenix clan, the 9 changes of the Emperor Phoenix. Are the 3 divine feathers with you? Di Shitian looked at Yu on his shoulder and asked softly. Yes. The divine feather has already been stored in my divine feather space. If Daddy wants it, Yu can take it out right away, Yu chirped intimately. However, the words she wanted to say were clearly transmitted into his mind. She had grown up with Di Shitian since she was young and had unexpectedly obtained 3 divine feathers. As long as he wanted it, he wouldn't hesitate at all. After saying that, the divine feathers behind her flashed, and 3 crystal-like divine feathers immediately flew out and fell into Di Shitian's hand. One was purple, one was red, and one was icy blue. They were the supreme treasures of the Emperor Phoenix clan. My 5-colored divine light can finally be perfected. With a light flick, he sent the 3 divine feathers into his inner world. With these 3 divine feathers, the incomplete origin of Earth in the 5 elements plate would be completely repaired. The 5-colored divine light would be perfected. The second innate divine restriction in the divine punishment eye, the innate 5 elements restriction, would also be perfected, and its power would increase greatly. He couldn't help but feel excited in his heart. Brother Di, you're here too. This can't be sister-in-law, right? At this moment, a hearty voice came from behind. In the blink of an eye, they saw that the 2 Xing Sun siblings were walking towards them. As he spoke, Tu Xing Sun blinked his eyes and looked at Bai Hu, who was standing beside Di Shitian, with a hint of mockery. Even with a veil covering her face, her shocking charm couldn't be hidden. This is Tian Xiong. Di Shitian was relieved to see that the siblings were safe and sound, and introduced them to each other. He didn't refute Tu Xing Sun's words, but he also didn't confirm it. Even so, Bai Hu was secretly delighted. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 706. Second update. Sister Tian Xiong is so beautiful. After a brief introduction, Earth Spirit walked to the White Fox's side and said with a gentle smile. Sister Ling you don't have to praise me. With your temperament and appearance, you'll be surrounded by handsome young men if you go out, Tian Xiong said with a smile. She seemed to be very close to Tu Ling. She had a temperament that made it hard for people to have any evil thoughts. The 2 girls chatted intimately. Di Shitian and Tu Xing Sun stood together and looked at the pitch-black door of all tribulations above the island. More and more cultivators gathered on the island. Almost everyone's attention was attracted by the ancient door. Temptation. The door of all tribulations was too tempting. The real treasures might all be inside the ancient door. The inheritance of the ancestor of all tribulations, countless treasures, and the demon suppression tower that could connect to the chaos and condense countless heavenly essence pills. The heavenly pool of all tribulations that could help people cultivate an immortal body were all treasures that countless cultivators yearned for. Brother Di, who do you think can enter the door of all tribulations? Tu Xing Sun squinted his small eyes and shook his head. Legend has it that this ancient door killed a peerless expert in the ancient times. Even if there's no one in charge now, I can only admit defeat with the pressure of the ancient door. Faintly, the pressure that was emitted from the ancient gate seemed to be able to completely freeze the entire void. At most, there were only emperors here. No one could get close to the door of all tribulations. They would be severely injured on the spot. They might even be crushed into meat paste. The door of all tribulations is too powerful. I can't enter the door. Sakura didn't hide anything. Just by looking at it, he knew that with his current cultivation, he definitely wouldn't be able to rush into the door of all tribulations. If he forced his way in, he would only be crushed to death by the ancient door. He sensed and smelled the scent of death on the ancient gate. This feeling was unprecedentedly strong. He had never felt this way since he was born. Bullshit door of all tribulations, watch how I split you apart. Meng Tianqi roared. His eyes suddenly widened as he swung his axe at the door of all tribulations. Heaven-splitting 9 axes, heaven splitter. Within the axe, there was a kind of sharpness that could completely cut through the world. It contained an overbearing force that pressed forward courageously. Its speed was as fast as lightning. The entire will of this axe was focused on the word break. Even if the world's hardest iron and stone were to stand in front of him, he would still be able to split it in half. It possessed the supreme will to crush the heavens. Crack! A golden axe light instantly struck the door of all tribulations. The might and pressure coming from the ancient door was cut in half with a sharp edge. 1,000 feet, 900 feet, 700 feet, when the axe light entered the pressure coming from the door of all tribulations, the speed at which it broke through the void suddenly became abnormally slow. Every 10 feet it advanced seemed to take as long as 60 years. Moreover, with every inch it advanced, the light of the axe light was forcefully worn out. It was constantly disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bang! When the axe light appeared 10 feet in front of the door of all tribulations, the terrifying pressure crushed the entire axe light on the spot. It completely collapsed and was crushed into fine powder. This axe that could almost split the world and force the ancient powerhouses to avoid actually didn't even get close to the door of all tribulations before it was crushed into fine powder by the pressure coming from the ancient door. This scene immediately stunned all the powerhouses fighting on the island. Countless waves of shock swept through their hearts. The Beast clan has always been known for their brute force. Behemoths are royalty in the Beast clan. Although their cultivation realm is only at the Emperor realm, their battle strength can challenge those of higher realms. This kind of attack can't even get close to the door of all tribulations. It's too terrifying. This door of all tribulations is too terrifying. I'm afraid no one here has the strength to get close to or even subdue this ancient door of all tribulations. This kind of supreme treasure, I'm sure only those ancient powerhouses or peerless powerhouses can covet it. The ancestor of all tribulations' supreme treasure is indeed not something that just anyone can covet. This threshold is really high. The most painful thing in the world is to put a supreme treasure in front of you, but you can only look at it but can't get it. In the world, this is the most painful thing. If the heavens can give me a wish, then I hope that the door of all tribulations will recognize me as its master. If there is a time limit, then I hope that it will take hundreds of millions of years. This kind of situation where they could see but couldn't get it simply made countless powerhouses go crazy. They all opened their mouths and howled, green light appearing in their eyes. If the innate spirit embryo is in the door of all tribulations, then how can I get it? Di Shitian, on the other hand, was lost in thought. His main goal this time was to obtain the innate spirit embryo and refine it into the source of vitality for the demon city, but now, he didn't even see the shadow of the innate spirit embryo. This made him feel quite troubled. He had to start thinking about how to find a replacement source of vitality if he couldn't get the innate spirit embryo. There is an innate spirit embryo in the demon world, but it's currently gestating the god-demon diagram, so it's not suitable to be used as a source of vitality. Plus, it can't be touched. Once touched, the entire thing will be destroyed, and a great terror will appear. If I can't get it, then where can I find it? Innate spirit embryos are born in the primal chaos, but they are extremely rare. With my current cultivation, I can't even reach the primal chaos. Once I enter the primal chaos, my entire body will be corroded by the chaos energy and turned into nothingness. In a short time, various thoughts flashed through his mind. He began to think about the future. Lunatic DI, don't worry. If we can't get the innate spirit embryo here, we'll just find another chance to look for it. Although innate spirit embryos are rare, it's not impossible to get them in the future. Dark comforted. After seeing the door of all tribulations, it had lost all confidence in obtaining the innate spirit embryo this time. The chances of snatching something from the door of all tribulations was simply too slim. They might even have to pay with their lives. Boom. Suddenly, Just when almost all the cultivators on the island had lost hope in the door of all tribulations, the door of all tribulations in the air suddenly shook. A boundless ancient aura was emitted from the door of all tribulations. The door of all tribulations was filled with endless darkness and profundity. It was like a bottomless abyss, a terrifying bottomless pit. The mysterious runes on the edge of the door rippled like flowing water. They seemed to be alive. It was extremely bizarre. Look, the door of all tribulations is moving. Is it trying to suppress us to death? The primordial aura, what a terrifying pressure. If it really falls, none of us will be able to survive. The vibration of the door of all tribulations caused countless pairs of eyes to be filled with horror. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. However, what happened next stunned them so much that their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. Beams of divine light flew out of the door of all tribulations. So many treasures. It's treasure light. All of them are treasures. Countless treasures are flying out of the door of all tribulations. My goodness, am I dreaming? So many treasure lights. Heavens, how many treasures are there? Snatch them, hurry up and snatch them. They belong to whoever snatches them. Treasures fluttered in the air. The beams of divine light contained precious treasures as they rushed out of the door of all tribulations. The number of treasures was probably no less than thousands. Thousands of treasures spurted out from the door. That scene was absolutely shocking. Even with Sakra's astonishing willpower, he couldn't help but widen his mouth in shock. Snatch them. Following the shout, all the cultivators on the island moved out. With a crazed look in their eyes, they all used their techniques and rushed into the air to chase after the treasures. Quick, Madman Di, do you see that jade-colored spiritual light? The innate spiritual light emitted from it is a sign of the innate spiritual embryo. It must be the innate spiritual embryo. Hurry up and get it, but we must get it at all costs. Dark shouted crazily when he saw the treasures spurting out. He shouted at the jade-colored spiritual light in the air. Divine eye of punishment, 5-colored divine light. Get all the treasures. Sakra took a deep breath. With a thought, a divine eye instantly opened between his brows. In the divine eye, purple-gold divine light kept flickering. The divine eye in the divine eye emitted a vast pressure. Whoosh! A beam of purple-gold divine light shot out from the divine eye. At the same time, it split into 4 streaks of divine light. Red, gold, blue, and green alternated as they swept across the void in a fan shape. The divine light didn't just sweep over the natural spiritual embryo, it also enveloped many treasures in the surroundings. 5-colored divine light. It had always brushed through everything and left no treasure behind. Now, with the support of Di Shitian's increasingly profound cultivation, the 5-colored divine light had become even more domineering in ancient times and suppressed all the worlds. Wherever it passed, all the treasures were sucked into the divine eye. Boom, boom, boom. However, when the divine light brushed past the innate spiritual embryo, it only caused the spiritual light on it to shake violently. It was not brushed into the divine eye. Brush again. Di Shitian did not give up. With a thought, he poured even more of his royal true force into the divine eye. He was not discouraged at all. The divine light shrouded the innate spiritual embryo and brushed it back and forth in succession. The surrounding void was annihilated inch by inch. It was as if heaven and earth were about to collapse and turn into chaos. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 707. The third update has arrived. Requesting monthly votes. Beams of divine light swept back and forth crazily. In the blink of an eye, they swept back and forth hundreds of times, annihilating the entire void. Countless elements of earth, fire, water, and wind appeared, but the moment they appeared, they were crushed into powder by the divine light. Whoosh! Finally, when the divine light swept past again, the innate spiritual light was instantly shattered, revealing the object inside. It was a snow-white flawless jade stone the size of a basketball. It didn't seem to have completely solidified, and it was still a jade-colored liquid. It emitted an innate charm. Without even thinking, the divine light swept past, and the divine eye emitted a strong devouring force. It quickly swept the liquid into the divine eye like a whale swallowing a whale. Rumble. There were many cultivators on the island. Although the door of 10,000 tribulations spat out many treasures, it was like a drop in the bucket compared to the number of cultivators. Some of the cultivators who had their eyes on the same supreme treasure encountered each other and didn't hesitate to use their divine powers on the spot. They started fighting fiercely. Even the void shook violently from the impact. Buzz. However, just as many of the cultivators were fighting each other, the door of 10,000 tribulations suspended in the void suddenly shook and emitted a vast pressure. This pressure seemed to have a purpose, and it directly blasted the cultivators who were fighting each other. It was so domineering that the cultivators in the air fell to the ground one after another. The door of 10,000 tribulations actually blasted the people fighting. Could it be that fighting is not allowed on this island? Haha, it's great that you can't kill people here. If you want to obtain treasures, you'll have to rely on your own divine powers. Look at my 5 elements great capture hand. Almost all of the cultivators here were at the top of the world, so they naturally had wisdom that far surpassed ordinary people. When the door of 10,000 tribulations moved, they immediately understood what it was trying to convey. This was a ban on fighting. If killing was not allowed, then one would have to rely on their own divine powers to obtain treasures. Howl. Yu, who was standing on Di Shitian's shoulder, flapped her wings and appeared in the air. Her body suddenly expanded to several hundred feet tall, and the 3 beams of divine light behind her instantly swept toward the treasures in the air. Splendid landscape illustration. A picture suddenly appeared in Bai Hu's hand and rolled towards the sky. In the picture, there seemed to be scenes of mountains and rivers. It was unpredictable. Lunatic Di, look. That's a worldly spiritual pearl. Hurry up and remove it. Another wave of treasures gushed out from the door of all tribulations. Inside, a glittering, golden pearl that exuded a sharp power instantly tore through the void and was about to escape. The aura of the metal origin came from the pearl. With Di Shitian's familiarity with the spiritual pearl of heaven and earth, he was able to confirm it in the blink of an eye. I have to get my hands on this golden spirit pearl. After obtaining it, my 7 sins demonic zither will immediately be upgraded. It has been upgraded to a high-grade magic treasure. Without even thinking about it, the 5-colored divine light shot out from the divine eye instantly and swept towards the gold spirit bead. Haha. The gold spirit pearl is mine. At this moment, a strange, pitch-black net suddenly appeared and flew towards the gold spirit pearl. In the net, countless black murderous auras were emitted. In one fell swoop, the spiritual pearl was instantly trapped in the net and was about to be pulled back. Looking at the owner of the net, it was actually an expert of the black murderous race. You dare to steal the treasure that I have my eyes on? When Di Shitian saw this, he sneered and glanced at the black murderous race expert. He did not hide the cold killing intent that burst out from him. Humph. So what if you're powerful? I'm not afraid. With the door of all tribulations on the island, you can't kill me at all. After you go out, you'll be killed by us black murderous race experts. The black murderous race expert also sneered and shouted. Heavenly punishment, divine eye, retribution mirror. Di Shitian did not say anything else. The divine light in his divine eye flashed and enveloped the black murderous race expert. After the purple divine light burst out, it condensed into an ancient mirror. The ancient mirror shone over, and suddenly, countless terrifying scenes appeared in the mirror, flashing past at lightning speed. The scenes in the mirror were the black murderous race expert's experiences since he was a child. Almost all of them were displayed in the mirror. All kinds of ferocious scenes instantly fell into the eyes of the black murderous race expert. On the spot, a blood-like flame burst out of the black murderous race expert's body without warning. His entire body was covered in flames. Ah! Retribution fire. This is retribution fire. He tried hard to extinguish the flames around him, but these flames were emitted from his body. They were retribution fire, formed from his own evil power. As long as there was retribution fire in his body, these flames would not disappear until his entire body was completely burned to ashes. In a series of miserable screams, his entire body, along with his divine soul, was burned to ashes in an instant by the retribution fire. Di Shitian sneered. Even the door of myriad tribulations did not interfere with this kind of retribution fire formed from one's own evil power. This kind of death was caused by the retribution fire of one's own evil deeds. It could be said that he died in his own hands. Once again, he used the 5-colored divine light to sweep the gold spirit pearl and the big net into his divine eye. What a pity! After taking the gold spirit pearl, he glanced around and saw that the other 4 spirit pearls had fallen into the hands of other experts. The water spirit pearl was taken by Xian Ming with the netherworld ghost lamp. The fire spirit pearl was taken by Meng Yao. The wind spirit pearl was taken by Yi Feng of the Wings clan. Finally, the thunder spirit pearl was taken by a young man with a lightning mark between his eyebrows. Lunatic Di, don't let your guard down. That old guy Myriad Tribulations is definitely not so kind as to send these treasures to you. There must be some kind of scheme that we don't know about. Be careful. Don't let that guy use you as a pawn. This unexpected easy acquisition of the treasures made Ming feel uneasy. He thought to himself, no matter what, and regardless of whether there is a scheme behind this, we must obtain the Xiantian Spirit Embryo and Spirit Pearl. If we want Thousand Demon City to truly become the habitat of the demon race, we must continuously increase the power of Thousand Demon City. With the Xiantian Spirit Embryo as the source of Yuan energy, Thousand Demon City will be able to continuously strengthen itself. A hint of bitterness rose up in Sakra's heart as he sighed. My demon race is dancing on a tightrope now. The human race, the 100 races, and the myriad of worlds, there's almost no place for us to stay. If I don't go and seize, how am I going to create a place for the demon race to settle down? I am a demon. If the demon clan is destroyed, how can I survive? He had obtained these treasures so easily. Even a fool would think that there was something wrong with it. How could he not realize it? However, he had always suppressed this thought in his heart. Even if there was a conspiracy, it would be in the future. Now that he had obtained the treasures, strengthening the demon clan was the most important thing. As the demon emperor, he also shouldered the heavy responsibility of continuing the demon clan's legacy and even the rise of the demon clan. This responsibility urged and encouraged him almost all the time. That's right. Even if there is a conspiracy, it will be in the future. With your current speed of growth, even if there is a conspiracy in the future, it's not impossible for you to deal with it. Dark thought about it and felt that it made sense. Thousands of treasures were plundered by the cultivators present. Rumble. When the last treasure was taken, the door of all tribulations suddenly released a vast force that tore open the void. A huge crack appeared, and through the crack, one could see the terrifying aura of calamity in the sky above the bedlam. This was a passage leading to the outside of the myriad tribulations cave abode. We can go out now. The land of chaos is outside. There is finally a way out. With this harvest, it's not impossible for us to become an eternal powerhouse. For a moment, countless cultivators secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Previously, they were still nervous about whether they could get out of the cave abode. In the depths of the cave abode, the blood altar flickered with a faint bloody light. A disdainful voice slowly echoed, just a bunch of chess pieces. Meanwhile, in the Thousand Moon sect, a good show was playing out. The Azure Dragon army formed into an Azure Dragon and stepped into the Thousand Moon realm. Then, 3 Blood Massacre generals drove a prison carriage and 10,000 Blood Massacre guards to enter the inner realm. In the inner realm, in the void, disciples of the Thousand Moon sect soared into the sky one after another. Among them, there were no less than 1,000 immortal lords. They were all women. Each of them held a moonlight battle sword in their hands and stood in a strange position. If one looked closely, they would realize that their positions were very similar to the arrangement of the thousands of moons in the void. Behind them, there were no less than 10,000 immortal lords. Behind them, there were about 100,000 immortal kings. They were densely packed and stood in the void. They stared coldly at the group of demons charging into the inner realm. Page. These demons dare to barge into the Thousand Moon realm. They're simply courting death. The Thousand Moon Sword formation is formed by immortal lords. Even the ancient giants can stay here. What's the Thousand Demon City? They're just a small demon. How dare they call themselves kings? They want to represent the demon race? What a fool's dream. If they want to take away the demon race in our inner realm, we'll make them stay here first. Why did those demons send that prison carriage over? Do you want us to surrender without putting up a fight? What a joke. The disciples of the Thousand Moon sect mocked in disdain. In their hearts, the Thousand Moon sect was the most powerful sect. They originally thought that the demons would attack as soon as they entered. However, the strange thing was that after the prison carriage was sent over, the Blood Massacre generals and 10,000 Blood Massacre guards instantly retreated. Even the Azure Dragon army quickly retreated a few thousand feet. Suddenly, a rather strange situation appeared on the battlefield. The Thousand Demon City was in the east, while the Thousand Moon sect was in the west. Between them, there was clearly a tragic murderous aura. Even the air became incomparably oppressive. In the middle of the two sides, there was actually a prison carriage. Under the pull of the bull, the prison carriage was constantly approaching the Thousand Moon sect side. That situation was not just a little strange. A while ago, my condition was indeed not good and I encountered a bottleneck. Fortunately, I've found inspiration again and am gradually recovering. I need to properly adjust. There's also the problem of the realm in the book. The ancient giants are realms, and the supremacy is a title for the ancient giants. It's a title. I remember that it was mentioned before. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 708. What prison carriage? Blast it to smithereens. It's just a prison carriage. Can it do anything to the entire Thousand Moons sect? They watched as the three barbaric bulls pulled the prison carriage towards the Thousand Moons sect. Although they could faintly sense that there was something strange about the prison carriage, especially the fact that there was a daoist trapped inside, how could a dignified large sect be frightened by a prison carriage? If they truly retreated, the entire Thousand Moons sect and the entire Thousand Moons realm would become the laughingstock of all the worlds in the universe. Kai. Seeing the prison carriage approaching, finally, many Thousand Moons sect disciples could no longer hold back and slashed at the prison carriage with their moonlight battle swords. Silver-white sword light shot out from the battle swords and slashed at the prison carriage. Thousands of sharp sword light slashed through the air and appeared in front of the prison carriage. This prison carriage was made of divine crystals. However, it was made like a birdcage. There were countless restrictions inside and the seal stone was suppressing it. Even an ancient giant would find it difficult to break the prison carriage. But now, the thousands of sword light arrived in front of the prison carriage and directly passed through the gaps in the prison carriage. They broke through the obstruction of the prison carriage and attacked the prison carriage. The restrictions in the prison carriage did not block the attack. The thousands of sword light landed squarely on Shen Gongbao, who was sitting in the prison carriage. Shen Gongbao, misfortune, evil, and disaster merged into one and became an ancient giant. He cultivated the evil emperor's immortal body and was already immortal. Even if his cultivation was restricted by the seal stone, his immortal body would not be restricted. The thousands of sword light landed on his body and cut countless terrifying tears in his Taoist robe. When the sword light landed on his body, Shen Gongbao cried out loudly. Both of his eyes turned red. His nose was crooked from anger. His face alternated between red and white as if he had opened a dying shop. A stifled breath rose in his heart. He, Shen Gongbao, had roamed the universe for countless years since the ancient times. Wherever he went, he was like a crab that could do whatever he wanted. Even the most powerful experts had to turn a blind eye to him. Now, he was imprisoned in this *T prison carriage and was slashed by the sword light of a group of juniors. Shame. What a great shame. Shen Gongbao threw his head back and roared with grief and indignation. I'm so angry. I'm so pitiful. I'm actually being humiliated by a group of juniors. Di Shitian, you're really vicious. You're using me as a tool. I regret it so much. I should have cursed you to death back then and let you be plagued by bad luck. Let you be invaded by 10,000 evils. I'm so unlucky. Shengong was wearing a tattered daoist robe. His face was green with anger, and his nose was crooked. He was pounding his chest and stamping his feet in the prison wagon, crying and yelling. He looked like he was holding back his strength and could not defecate. At the same time, countless streaks of pitch-black qi crazily emerged from his body and swept out in all directions. Especially those Thousand Moons sect disciples who were waving their battle swords and slashing at him. Countless streaks of black qi instantly wrapped around their bodies. The invisible power of misfortune filled the entire Thousand Moon realm. The force of myriad evils and the force of calamity were completely unleashed. Not good. Why did I suddenly lose control of my magic power? Could it be that I've gone mad? Aya, why did the heavenly lightning strike me? Where did this earth fiend yin flame come from? Quick, help me put out the fire. Aya, my neck. My neck is twisted. What's going on? Why is my entire body cramping? Heavens, why did a black hole appear in the Thousand Moon realm? Where did this dazzling heavenly fire come from? Heavens, that black wind, could it be the Nine Shades Yin wind? There's so much lightning. There's so much poisonous gas. Why is it like this? Shengong Gongbao was like a hornet's nest. Misfortune, calamity, and 10,000 evils all gathered on his body. Whoever touched him would be unlucky. The Thousand Moons sect did not know that the person in the prison wagon was this calamity. They even directly attacked and beat him to death. This time, it was as if they had poked a hornet's nest. The power of misfortune instantly wrapped around every single disciple of the Thousand Moons sect. The entire Thousand Moons sect was enveloped in misfortune. That was not all. Calamity immediately descended. Heavenly fire, lightning, yin wind, and all kinds of calamities instantly erupted. All of the Thousand Moons sect disciples surged toward them. Rumble. The Thousand Moons peak, which was as tall as 10,000 blades and was like a giant that had existed since ancient times, violently shook without warning. Crack. On the peak, numerous hideous and terrifying cracks began to spread from the foot of the mountain. With a speed visible to the naked eye, they quickly spread across the entire peak. They were densely packed together like a spider web. The peak shook violently. The various buildings and caves built on the peak were instantly struck by a terrifying force and collapsed. From the cracks on the peak, endless amounts of earth fire spewed out and swept in all directions. The restrictions that had been set up on the peak were unceasingly destroyed by the impact. From the main hall of the Thousand Moons peak, 9 figures instantly turned into divine light and rushed into the sky above the peak. A silver-white ancient mirror instantly flew out from the great saintess' hands and hung in the air. With a whoosh, a ray of divine light shot out from the ancient mirror and enveloped the entire Thousand Moons peak in divine light. The divine light contained a vast amount of power. It covered the entire peak and actually stopped the collapse of the peak. As the earth fire flowed back, the cracks disappeared one after another. What's going on? The Thousand Moons peak is the foundation of the Thousand Moons realm. Since the birth of the Thousand Moons realm, there has never been any signs of collapse. Why is this happening all of a sudden? The great saintess frowned in disbelief. Oh no, great senior sister, look at the sky. The second saintess looked up, her eyes filled with shock. How is this possible? How can the moon of the Thousand Moons realm fall? Oh no, the moon is smashing down on the Thousand Moons peak. They looked up and saw that the Thousand Moons hanging in the sky were violently swaying. With the endless power of the moon, they fell from the sky and left streaks of silver-white light in the air as they madly crashed into the Thousand Moons peak. All sorts of disasters occurred in the Thousand Moons realm. Earth fire, magma, and the sea surged with terrifying tsunamis. The ground cracked and mountains collapsed. Countless amounts of poisonous gas spewed out from the ground. Terrifying gales swept across the sky, blowing people's flesh and blood apart. Moonlight rain fell from the sky and landed on the ground, freezing it inch by inch. Countless bolts of lightning flashed wildly like raindrops. All sorts of disasters enveloped the entire Thousand Moons realm in an instant. The aura of disaster filled every inch of space. Azure Dragon Legion, set up the Gate of Heaven projection and follow me to save the Inner Realm people. The Gate of Heaven projection appeared in the Thousand Moons realm. The Azure Dragon in the sky turned into soldiers of the Azure Dragon Legion. They formed teams of 10 and quickly charged into the Inner Realm. They began to search for demons and send large amounts of demons to the Gate of Heaven projection. Bloodkill guards, listen to my order. Slaughter the Thousand Moons sect. Rumble, rumble, rumble. With the 3 Bloodkill generals leading, 10,000 Bloodkill guards turned into a wave of blood and charged into the Thousand Moons realm. Only 2 hours later, from the Thousand Moons realm, countless spies left the realm and quickly spread the news to the other realms. Damn! Shen Gongbao is the star of disaster, the god of misfortune. He is too terrifying. Disaster swept across the entire Thousand Moons realm. Even the Thousand Moons in the sky fell and smashed into the Thousand Moons peak. The Thousand Moons peak turned into nothing and countless disciples of the Thousand Moons sect died. The star of disaster is really terrifying. Attack him and you will immediately be surrounded by endless misfortune. The blood-killing general of the demon city. The blood-killing guards are truly godly murderous soldiers. They are invulnerable from head to toe, impervious to weapons, water, and fire. A single blood-killing general can stop 3 ancient giants. The 9 saintesses of the Thousand Moons sect were captured on the spot. Blood slaughter, it's really blood slaughter. The demon emperor is really ruthless. He actually captured Shen Gongbao and used him as the vanguard. Whoever touches him will be unlucky. The Thousand Moons sect had only attacked him, and a disaster had swept through the entire Thousand Moons realm. Now, the Thousand Moons realm was probably going to decline from being one of the many realms in the universe, and become a barren land. No, I have to quickly report back to my sect. If the demon emperor, that madman, brings Shen Gongbao to my sect again, won't we all die? All demons return to their sect. Let him return to his sect. We can't provoke disaster. For a time, all kinds of news spread to the heavens at an unimaginable speed. The fate of the Thousand Moons realm and even the entire Thousand Moons sect made countless experts speechless on the spot. Those who did not want to stop it in the first place and wanted to give the demon race face would not stop them and allow the demon race to migrate out. As for those who were originally prepared to resist, their attitudes began to waver. Shen Gongbao's power was too strong. The plan to return to their sect was carried out at an unusually smooth speed. In the Thousand Demon City, a large number of demon race members were gathering and returning to the city almost every moment. The number of demon race members was increasing at an unbelievable speed. All kinds of demon race clans were able to enter the city. However, after the Thousand Moons sect, the Demon Emperor did not continue to use the Blood Slaughter sect's thunderous methods on those worlds that were openly opposing him. He only recorded the various opposing forces. However, the fact that the Thousand Demon City had captured Shen Gongbao made many forces that originally wanted to attack the demon race secretly retreat. Shen Gongbao was like a nuclear bomb that could explode at any time in the Thousand Demon City. This kind of invisible deterrence was not just a little bit strong. Those with monthly tickets, please help me. Chapter 709. Many cultivators leaped into the air without any hesitation and rushed into the rift, passing through it and exiting it. With an example, many cultivators followed suit. One by one, they crossed the void and rushed into the crack. They passed through the crack and entered the chaotic land. They left the Myriad Tribulations cave abode. The Myriad Tribulations cave abode was filled with too many strange things. Almost every moment, a large number of powerful cultivators died here. Now that they could leave, they almost couldn't wait to control their bodies. No one dared to have any ideas about the Myriad Tribulations door. That was simply courting death. Brother-in-law, let's get out of here quickly. After staying here for so long, Zhu'er misses sister. Big sister is pregnant with a child now. If the child is born and Zhu'er is not here, my little nephew will not recognize me as his aunt in the future, eh? Zhu'er blinked her eyes and shook Sakra's arm as she said in a crisp voice. Her eyes narrowed into crescents. Shitian, I also think that it's better for us to leave quickly. I don't know why, but I keep feeling like there's a pair of eyes secretly watching me. The white fox furrowed her brows as she spoke. She did not know why, but when she entered the island, she could faintly feel that there was a pair of eyes spying on her from the dark. This feeling was faintly discernible and extremely strange. However, it was very clear that it existed, and it made her feel vaguely uneasy. It was as if she had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. Hearing this, Tu Ling-er's clear eyes, which seemed to be able to see through people's hearts, instantly fell on Bai Hu. In her eyes, all kinds of strange lights constantly intertwined and changed. Suddenly, her expression changed as if she had seen something bad. She hurriedly took 2 steps forward and walked to Bai Hu's side. She reached out and pulled her to the side. She whispered, Sister Tianxiang, this is the Great Expansion clam. It's the most precious protective treasure of our Li clan. Hide it well. If you encounter any danger, it can save you once. A 7-colored shell-like treasure appeared in her hand. It was only the size of a thumb, but it was strangely magical. When it was delivered to Bai Hu's hand, it seemed to make a small cut on her hand. A drop of essence blood immediately fell on the Great Expansion muscle. Strangely, the Great Expansion muscle instantly turned into a 7-colored divine light and entered her body. This, Bai Hu was shocked. When she saw the Great Expansion muscle, she knew that it was a rare treasure. She did not dare to accept it. Just as she was about to decline, she did not expect that the Earth Spirit would recognize it as its master. He couldn't help but look at her with a bitter smile. There was a hint of doubt in his eyes. He didn't quite understand the reason behind her actions. He wanted to ask. However, Tu Ling-er shook her head. He walked back to Tu Xingsun's side. However, judging from his expression, he did not seem to be in a good mood. Little sister, you used the prophet's eye on Miss Su just now. Did you see some fragments of the future? Tu Xingsun asked in a low voice, I see that you even gave Su Tianxiang the protective supreme treasure given to you by your clan. Could it be that she is going to be in great trouble? He had seen everything that had just happened. He had seen everything clearly and his expression had become very serious. Brother, the 2 of us can't interfere with her affairs. I gave her the Great Expansion muscle in hopes that she can escape this disaster. However, no matter what, Brother Di is worth befriending. If we can help him, we should help him. Tu Ling-er's expression was serious. Come, let's go out together. Although Di Shitian had seen Tu Ling-er's strange behavior, he could not help but ponder for a while. He could only suppress his thoughts for now. He looked at the crack in the void. The surrounding cultivators were decreasing rapidly. Now, they had all left the cave abode and returned to the chaotic land. He immediately stopped hesitating. He shouted and took the lead. His body swayed, and he turned into a stream of light and rushed into the crack. The others followed closely behind. In the crack, there was a powerful twisting force that was quite terrifying. If one's cultivation had not reached a certain level, once he entered the crack, he would be torn into countless pieces. However, this force could not hurt Di Shitian. In the crack, it was as if he was walking on flat ground. He quickly passed through it. It felt like a moment, but it also felt as long as a year. After some time, a bright light suddenly appeared in front of him. His eyes could almost see all kinds of disasters in the chaotic land. He smelled the scent of disaster. I can finally return to the demon city. I have achieved my goal by getting the innate spiritual embryo this time. When Di Shitian saw the exit, he secretly sighed in relief. His experience in the Tribulation Cave abode flashed through his mind. He experienced the gains and losses bit by bit. Whoosh, whoosh. His body swayed, and he rushed out of the crack. The royal true force covered his entire body. His eyes were like lightning, and his mind was tense. He was on guard against someone trying to rob him when he came out. However, The moment he left the crack, Di Shitian's face suddenly changed. His whole body seemed to have sunk into a sea in an instant. He was involuntarily wrapped by a force of space and quickly transported to an unknown place. Oh no, I've been set up. A thought flashed through Di Shitian's mind. The force of space that wrapped around his body was obviously a kind of teleportation force. Damn it, lunatic Di, you've met your retribution. Did Shengong send misfortune to you? Every dog has its day. Back then, you used the heavenly gate projection to send Shengong Yin to the heavenly prison. I didn't expect that someone would set up an illusory door in front of the crack and let you enter. You have to be careful now. Someone is plotting against you. Oh no, I'm afraid that the fox and the two siblings have come in together. Ming said bitterly, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Back then, Di Shitian set up the heavenly gate formation to trick Shengong. This retribution came really quickly. Someone actually set up an illusory door in front of the crack that appeared in the Myriad Calamity Cave abode. From the looks of it, they were specifically waiting for him. It was obvious that someone was plotting against him. Pater. In an instant, his right hand appeared on the slender tiger soul's hilt on his back. In his body, the 9th-rank Black Lotus spun crazily at an astonishing speed, sending waves of royal true force into the demon veins all over his body. His flesh and blood trembled non-stop, and a vast amount of power emerged. The light around him flickered, and the treasure body was pushed to the extreme. From every pore on his body, waves of purple-gold demon chi constantly spewed out. Everything was intertwined, and his entire body was shrouded in a dense demon fog. Looking at the violent rolling of the demon fog, there seemed to be various strange forces inside. Just a glance would cause one's mind to waver, and various terrifying illusions would appear in one's mind. All kinds of desires emerged inexplicably in one's mind. The royal true force formed by the power of desire and the royal purple chi. Naturally, it had various strange abilities of the power of desire. As long as Di Shitian was willing, even if it was only a strand of the royal true force, he could send it into anyone's body, and cause them to fall into various desires and illusions in an instant. I want to see who is plotting against me. Di Shitian's mind spun quickly. Almost in an instant, he had already reacted. Even if he was attacked the moment he stepped out of the illusory door of illusions, he could still react in an instant. The vigilance in his heart was raised to the highest level. The dragon eyes of Underworld flashed with a dangerous light. It shouted, "Hehe, Underworld ancestor has never been plotted against like this before. If I can recover the cultivation of the ancient times, MPH, even if it's an ancient giant, I can kill him with one claw." It had never been a kind person. Swish. The power of space around him suddenly dissipated, and the scene in front of him changed instantly. With a thud, Di Shitian stepped on the ground. His eyes scanned the surroundings like lightning. In front of him was a huge island. On the island, flowers and trees were scattered, forming a forest. There were even ferocious beasts roaming around. Outside the island, a chaotic storm was wreaking havoc everywhere. Meteorites of all sizes were streaking across the void like meteors. Various distorted space blades were flying around wantonly. This was the endless void. The strange thing was that the attack that he had expected did not appear immediately. Instead, after a few glances, the location of the island appeared in his mind. If he was not mistaken, he was in the endless void. However, his eyes immediately scanned the void above the island. Suddenly, a figure appeared in his eyes. In the void, a young man in a royal blue robe was holding a feather fan made of 9 feathers in his hand. He wore a flat imperial crown on his head and a pair of cloud ascension boots on his feet. His face was extraordinarily handsome, and between his eyebrows, there was a black birthmark of a fire cloud. It added a strange charm to his body. He exuded a unique aura of disdain and carefree. The combination of masculinity and aloofness in his aura was a fatal attraction to women. Even the most picky people could not help but praise him when they saw him. He was indeed a handsome man. Looking at his feet, he was actually standing on the back of a huge rock. Its 2 wings were like clouds in the sky. However, The strange thing was that the huge rock seemed to have the aura of the water tribe. It did not seem like an ordinary rock. Moreover, there seemed to be a desolate and unwilling expression in its eyes. "It's a rock," Ming could not help but exclaim. In the northern underworld, there was a fish named Kuan. The Kuan was so big that it was unknown how many thousands of miles long it was. It transformed into a bird named Peng. The Peng's back was so large that it was unknown how many thousands of miles long it was. When it flew, its wings were like clouds in the sky. This bird was not a rock, but the infamous Kuan Peng from ancient times. The young man stood on the back of the Kuan Peng calmly with a natural smile on his face. He was also sizing up Di Shitian. Swoosh, swoosh. The space behind him distorted. Immediately, he saw Bai Hu, Zhu and Tu Ling appear on the island at the same time. "It's you," Bai Hu, who had just stood up, could not help but widen her eyes when she saw the scene on the island. She cried out in shock. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 710. Who is it? Tu Xingsuan hurriedly asked. North Nether Mansion Master, Carefree King, Zhu'er's eyes also revealed a strong sense of alertness. Carefree King? This sentence shocked everyone present. Ever since they heard Bai Hu mention that someone had pestered her in the Tribulation Cave abode, this name was instantly branded in their minds. It could be said that the impression was not deep. He is Carefree King. He actually enslaved the Kuan Peng as his mount. Di Shitian took a deep breath. His tiger-like eyes narrowed, and a strong sense of anger emerged in his heart. The Kuan Peng was one of the rarest clans in the ancient demon clan. During the ancient demon clan's heyday, there were only 5 Kuan Peng clans in the entire demon clan. Moreover, one of them was the ancestor of the Kuan Peng clan. In the ancient times, he was known as the Demon Master. Speaking of the Demon Master Kuan Peng, who wasn't filled with awe? He had once created many cultivation techniques and passed them down to the demon clan. He had a high status in the demon clan. He was known as one of the ancestors of the demon clan. The clan he left behind had high aptitude and potential. Among the countless clans of the demon clan, it could be said to be ranked at the top. Every Kuan Peng clansman was the top battle force. In the ancient war, they were at the forefront and fought with the billions of demon gods on the demon god continent. No one knew how many heroic feats they had done. Now, they were actually stepped on by the North Nether Mansion Master as a mount. This was simply slapping the entire demon clan's face. Shame, shame. As a demon emperor, Di Shitian felt that his face was burning hot. The descendant of the demon master Kuan Peng was actually forcefully taken as a mount. This was slapping the demon clan's face, which was slapping his face. Looking at the unwillingness and anger in the Kuan Peng king's eyes, how could he not know that it was definitely not his intention to become a mount? The anger in his heart immediately flared up. Even if it was not for the matter of Bai Hu, just because of the matter of the Kuan Peng king, Di Shitian's body almost instantly surged with a strong killing intent. He stared coldly at unfettered king who was standing on the back of the rock king. Carefree King gently waved the feather fan in his hand, his body exuding an unruly aura. He wasn't surprised by Di Shitian's murderous intent at all. He smiled calmly and said, "That's right, I'm the Lord of Dark North Mansion, Carefree King." There was a strange magnetism in his voice. This magnetism gave him a fatal attraction to women. "Carefree King, what are you trying to do by teleporting us here?" Zhu'er put her hands on her waist and pointed at him angrily. She shouted angrily, "Let me tell you, you were lucky last time. This time, my brother-in-law is here. Let's see how my brother-in-law will beat you into a pig's head. Kneel down and beg for mercy." When she saw Di Shitian beside her, she shouted with even more confidence. Her expression was like a little chili pepper. "Carefree King, you should give up. I've already told you that I already have a husband. Furthermore, my husband is the demon emperor standing before you right now. It's absolutely impossible for me to leave with you. It's even more impossible for me to like you, and even more impossible for me to become your concubine. Bai Hu's face was slightly pale, but there was a resolute charm in her expression. There was a touch of decisiveness in her voice. She took a step forward and stood beside Di Shitian. She reached out and hugged one of his arms intimately. That expression was strangely resolute. Since it was a kind of attitude, it was also a way to reveal his palpitations to Sakura without any concealment. Your husband is the demon emperor. When Carefree King heard this, he wasn't angry at all. He just looked at Di Shitian with a faint smile and said casually, "It just so happens that an old friend asked me to tell him that he doesn't want to see the demon emperor in the future. Since that's the case, I'll kill him and do the two things at the same time. This way, naturally, your husband won't be an obstacle between us." He didn't want the demon emperor to appear. It was obvious that he wanted Di Shitian to die on the spot. You enslaved the Kuanping and humiliated the demon clan. You deserve to die. The anger in Di Shitian's heart surged crazily into his mind like a tide. Patter. He moved his body and took a step forward. As if he had shrunk the ground into an inch, he instantly crossed a distance of hundreds of feet and appeared in the void. With a clang, the tiger soul was unsheathed. The golden saber light drew a dazzling beam of light and slashed at the unfettered king's heart. The divine light in the saber was restrained. Its speed was faster than lightning. Almost instantly, it appeared in front of Carefree King's heart. The sharp light flickered in and out, as if it was going to cut the void apart. Among the Emperor level, there weren't many people who could dodge this attack. The murderous aura emitted from the saber almost froze the surrounding air. An indescribable anger was burning in his chest. He attacked with a killing move without mercy. Clang. However, just as Tiger Soul's blade was about to cut into the unfettered king's heart, the feather fan in his hand, which was made of 9 different colored feathers, blocked his chest with a strange speed, as if it was miraculous, and collided with Tiger Soul. A 9-colored divine light appeared on the feather fan and blocked the vast saber light spat out by the Tiger Soul. Then, he waved the feather fan as if it was an understatement. Boom! A continuous and boundless mighty force suddenly erupted from the feather fan, causing Tiger Soul and the Sakura's entire body to unconsciously retreat outwards. As they retreated, the terrifying force instantly destroyed the surrounding space. The space behind them caved in horribly. You're only at the 9th transformation realm, but you have the combat strength of an ancient demon saint. Coupled with the ultimate void mask on your face, your cultivation isn't inferior to any demon saint. However, if you want to kill this king, this bit of cultivation is still not enough. Carefree King stood quietly on the back of the Kuanping, his expression unchanged. He gently waved the feather fan in his hand and said regretfully, "It's a pity. If you were given time, you might be able to become a wonder of the world. However, you won't have the chance. Whatever divine abilities you have, feel free to use them. This king has always had a rule. I will give any expert who dies by this king's hand a chance to unleash the last and most resplendent brilliance of their life. Unleash all of your divine abilities and techniques, and die without regrets." His calm words spread across the island. It fell into everyone's ears. Not only did they not feel honored, but they also felt a strong chill in their hearts. To be able to set such a rule, how terrifying must that person's strength be? Lunatic DI, be careful. This Carefree King is an ancient giant, a true ancient giant. How is it possible? His cultivation is already close to the peak of the ancient giant. He's only a step away from being a peerless expert. How could such a guy appear out of nowhere? Dark saw that unfettered king had easily blocked Sakura's killing move, and with a wave of his hand, his entire body couldn't withstand the power emitted from the fan and was sent flying. This kind of power was something Di Shitian had never encountered since he was born. It was as vast and boundless as the ocean in his body. Bang! He took a step back with his left foot and stepped on the void behind him. Countless terrifying cracks appeared in the void like glass. He instantly steadied his body that was constantly retreating. His heart was in turmoil. So strong. From the body of Freedom King, Lin Fan could only feel a boundless and formless pressure pressing down on him. Strong, this was way too strong. At that moment, Lin Fan felt as though he was just a little kid. He had never felt that kind of feeling before. An ancient giant. This was a true ancient giant. Powerful. He was definitely no less than 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than him. Run. Almost instantly, a thought that he had never had before appeared in his mind. With just a short blow, he clearly knew that Carefree King definitely had the terrifying power to kill him. Crazy DI, quickly think of a way to escape. If you stay here, you'll definitely die. Where there's life, there's hope. This island has been set up with countless restrictions. We must find a way to open the restrictions. If we die here, everything will be over. Ming was so anxious that his eyes began to turn red. He kept shouting. No, I must send Tian Xiong and Zhu out first. Di Shitian's mind was spinning wildly, but his expression was unusually calm. There was no trace of panic. He stopped in the void and looked at Carefree King with a cold smile. Carefree King, I didn't expect that you, an ancient giant, would personally attack I. However, do you really think that I can only wait to be captured and can't hurt you? He slowly exuded a majestic aura. Today, I'll take both your life and little by whose life. Carefree King just said with a faint smile. He seemed to be completely unmoved by his words. That depends on whether you have the life to take it. Boom, boom, boom. With a wave of his hand, the void behind him shook. A towering throne with an aura above the heavens instantly appeared in the void. Di Shitian sat on the throne. A light flashed in his hand, and the pitch-black Seven Sins demonic zither suddenly appeared in front of him. It floated steadily in the void. Gold Spirit Pearl. With a thought, a jade box appeared. He opened the jade box, and a gold spirit pearl that was shining with golden light and emitting traces of gold origin appeared in the box. He reached out and took the gold spirit pearl in his hand. Without even looking at it, he directly pressed it into the groove beside the third string of the Seven Sins demonic zither. Buzz. Ding dong. As soon as the gold spirit pearl touched the groove, it immediately set perfectly together like dry firewood in a raging fire. It completely integrated with the entire zither. Suddenly, in the zither, countless pure desire power could be seen fusing into the zither at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, the ancient zither continuously transformed and became stronger. The power in the zither was even more tyrannical. The 9 strings on the zither moved without wind and vibrated in unison. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 711. Waves of invisible sound waves spread out in all directions, and when they reached the ears, all kinds of desires appeared in the mind, and their minds were shaken by the sound of the guqin. The sound of desire. King Xiaoyao, who had been maintaining a natural and calm expression, couldn't help but change his expression slightly when he heard the zither's natural vibrations. A strange look appeared on his face. He exclaimed in surprise. Just now, when the sound of the zither entered his ears, even he could feel the desire that he had been suppressing in the bottom of his heart. It actually showed signs of stirring. The gold spirit pearl was embedded in the body of the guqin. Suddenly, the guqin, which was originally a middle-grade magic treasure, was upgraded to a high-grade magic treasure at a speed visible to the naked eye. The guqin had already accumulated enough power, and now, with the addition of the gold origin, it broke through the shackles on the spot, and the power of the guqin increased by more than 10 times in an instant. Hum. The body of the guqin shook. The originally pitch-black ancient zither had already transformed into a pure white, flawless snow in an instant. There was not the slightest flaw. The sparkling and translucent jade light was like a tide that constantly rippled within the body of the zither. It was suffused with strange colors. The Seven Sins demonic guqin was upgraded to a high-grade magic treasure. Music. Freedom King saw that the transformation of the guqin had completed and landed on the body of the guqin, and a strange light shot out from his eyes. I not only know music, but my guqin can also kill people. You may not be able to withstand my guqin. Di Shitian's face was covered by the emperor mask, but under the mask, his face was as cold as ice. The words he spat out could freeze the air. With a kind of murderous aura. Oh! King Xiaoyaro waved his hand with great interest, and a wine jar appeared out of nowhere. He casually opened the mud seal, and a strange aroma of wine wafted out from the jar. He smiled with interest. Then this king is even more interested. I remember that in the past, I once heard a heavenly girl of the Qin family play the Nine Heavens Ecstasy song. When the song ended, 30% of my soul dissipated. I still remember it today. In order to repay this generous gift, I am planning to pay a visit to the Qin clan. I heard that the Qin clan has a celestial maiden who was recognized by the LV Qin. She is a rare beauty and is destined to be this king's concubine. I'd like to see how your sound Dao cultivation compares to the Qin families. His tone was very calm, but there was a trace of playfulness in it. The school of Qin was known to be the best in the world in terms of music and sound attacks. It stood at the peak of the way of sound. The Nine Heavens Ecstasy song was the Qin clan's signature song. In terms of sound attacks, this song could be said to be the most powerful sound attack song in the world. He did not think that Di Shitian was stronger than the Qin family in terms of sound Dao. In the Dao of sound attacks, the Qin clan reigned supreme. The murderous intent in Di Shitian's eyes intensified. He did not expect that the carefree king would not only target Bai Hu, but also the Qin family. He did not hesitate. He placed his hands on the zither strings and brushed them smoothly across the body. Clang, clang, clang. His 10 powerful fingers plucked the strings of the zither. Instantly, the sounds of war filled with the sounds of war, and war filled the air. As the music was played, it was as if the entire island was filled with a terrifying murderous aura. Like a stormy sea, it completely covered the entire island. Every inch of the air was filled with a terrible murderous aura. It was as if the surroundings had turned into a terrifying ancient battlefield. The terrible murderous aura was about to make one's blood boil. The song of slaughter, kill, break, wolf. It's a song of the way of slaughter. A trace of surprise flashed across the carefree king's face when he heard the zither music. As soon as the sound of the zither started, Indra immediately released his murderous aura. Along with the sound of the zither, his 10 fingers were like phantoms as he plucked the zither's strings quickly and forcefully. The rapid sound of slaughter instantly burst out. Clang, clang, clang. As the zither strings vibrated, blood-colored sound blades in the shape of crescent moons condensed and slashed toward the carefree king at lightning speed. In front of these sound blades, the space was instantly destroyed by the vibrations. They appeared strangely in front of the carefree king. No less than tens of thousands of sound blades covered the sky and earth, cutting through the vacuum. Turning sound blades into sound blades is not bad. There are not many people below the level of ancient powerhouses who can withstand this kind of sound attack. However, it can't do anything to me. The carefree king did not even have the time to look at the sound blades. He lifted the wine jar in his hand and poured a mouthful of wine into his mouth. The wine that sparkled like amber fell into his mouth. It did not block the sound blades at all. Clang, clang, clang. The blood-colored blades cut through the void and swept to within 100 feet of the carefree king at lightning speed. Suddenly, a strange darkness appeared around unfettered king. It was like a black hole. With him as the center, the area of 10 feet around him collapsed continuously. It was like a black ocean. It was indescribably deep. It was as if it wanted to devour everything in the area. As soon as the blood-colored sound blades entered the area, they were strangely devoured and disappeared without a trace, without causing any ripples. As soon as the sound blades entered the area, they were instantly devoured. This is the Dark North Heavenspan change. When Ming saw this scene, he couldn't help but exclaim, how did such a peerless technique fall into his hands? Not good, lunatic Di. The carefree king has cultivated the Dark North Heavenspan change and has the terrifying ability to devour all things. Any attack that enters the area around him will be devoured and refined into Dark North true power. If he gets close, he can instantly rob you of your cultivation base and dharmic powers. Even your treasures, materials, and spiritual essences will be devoured by him. Your attacks can't hurt him. Once you get close, you'll be devoured. The dark north heavenspan change could devour all energy and turn it into one's own. As long as one's physical body could withstand it, even if one was just an ordinary person, devouring all of an immortal king's dharmic powers would immediately give one the full power of an immortal king. However, one's cultivation base had to be comprehended by oneself. Otherwise, if one's strength exceeded one's cultivation base by too much, one would directly suffer from chi deviation. If one lost control of their true power, they would explode and die. Even with this flaw, it was still a very domineering technique. Legend had it that the creator of this technique, Dark North Unfettered, had once tried to improve it. He wanted to let the technique absorb the opponent's dharmic powers while also robbing the opponent's dharmic powers. It could be said to be one of the most domineering techniques in the world. Robbing everything in the world. You can devour sound blades. Then let's see if you can even resist the 7 sins divine melody. After Di Shitian tested out the technique that the carefree king had cultivated, the zither music in his hands suddenly changed. A melodious tune, like a lark in the morning, rang out, crisp and pleasant to the ear. His fingers moved swiftly like moving clouds and flowing water. The 9 strings immediately danced between his fingers like fairies. Strange notes continued to condense between heaven and earth, spreading in all directions. In the void, the sound of the zither music spread out like the sound of nature. Good tune. The carefree king's eyes couldn't help but light up as he praised. He only felt that this zither music was a wonderful heavenly music that he had never heard before. It was simply a supreme enjoyment. He couldn't help but close his eyes and listen. In his life, he had never heard such a magical zither music that was more moving than the sound of nature. He couldn't help but be immersed in it. In his mind, traces of desire emerged from the bottom of his heart, turning into a strange movement that reverberated in his mind. What was beautiful was not the zither music, but the sound of desire that was derived from the desire in his body. In his mind, it was as if he was free and unfettered, accompanied by hundreds of beautiful women, graceful and beautiful. Standing at the peak of heaven and earth. The first movement of the 7 sins divine melody, Heaven's Heart. Haha, a divine melody is a divine melody after all. No matter how strong the carefree king is, he still has desires. With desires, he can't escape the power of the divine melody. Even he was mesmerized by the divine melody. He was completely unaware of the outside world. That's great. Dark shouted joyfully. Tian Xiong, Zhu brother 2, hurry up and leave this place. Now that the carefree king is mesmerized by my divine melody, this is the best time to leave. Di Shitian scolded Bai Hu and the others at the same time while playing the zither. Brother-in-law, what about you? Zhu asked worriedly. The carefree king has been lured into the illusion of desire by my zither music. With his cultivation realm, if I stop playing the zither music, he will wake up in the blink of an eye. You guys leave first. I want to have a good fight with him. I want to kill him. Di Shitian's eyes narrowed. Seeing that the carefree king had fallen into the illusion of his divine melody, it was a rare opportunity to kill him. How could he miss such an opportunity? He wanted to see if he could kill the carefree king here. Let's go. If we stay here, it will make Brother Di have scruples and restrict his movements. Leaving is the best help for Brother Di. Tu Ling-er's eyes flashed with wisdom. Lunatic Di, this island is surrounded by restrictions. However, the purple divine feather of the 3 divine feathers on Diu's body is the most magical. With it around, any restriction is useless in front of that divine feather. He could easily pass through most of the restrictions. Let Diu take them away from here. The most magical part of the Emperor Phoenix was the 3 divine feathers on its back. The most magical of them was the purple divine feather. Not only could it change the 5 elements at will, but it also had the magical power to break through all kinds of restrictions. In ancient times, almost no one could restrain the Emperor Phoenix. Roar. Diu instantly expanded to several hundred feet in size. She placed the white fox and the others on her back, and a beam of purple light enveloped them completely. With a sweep of the purple light, countless restrictions were mysteriously destroyed under the divine light. With a long cry, She flapped her wings and quickly passed through the restrictions. She quickly flew toward the myriad demon city. In the blink of an eye, she turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the endless void. He watched as Baihu and the others left. Sakura also secretly heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Now that they had left, he no longer had to worry about anything in the future. "Come at me. I want to see just how strong you, King Xiao Yarrow, are." The music in his hands changed, and the originally melodious music instantly became passionate. The second movement of the divine melody of Seven Sins, Rise of Evil. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 712. Di Shitian had only obtained 2 movements of the divine melody of 7 sins. The first movement, Heart of Heaven. The sound of the zither aroused all kinds of desires buried deep in the hearts of those who listened. They would all be released in an instant and give birth to the most beautiful zither music in the world. This sound of desire was formed from the desires in each person's heart. What each person heard would be different, but it was the most beautiful music that was targeted at them. No one could resist this sound of the guqin. As long as one had desires and was not completely oblivious to them, one would be subconsciously immersed in the sound of the guqin and fall into a strange state. In one's mind, all sorts of desires could be realized. One would fall into it and lose one's will, unable to distinguish between illusion and reality. Those with weak wills and unstable cultivation levels would be able to forcefully raise their cultivation levels. This first movement, Heart of Heaven. It was enough to completely immerse them in their endless desires. Their minds would be eroded by their desires and they would die. It would sweep away most of the cultivators. However, for those with strong wills and stable cultivation levels, this Heart of Heaven was overbearing and terrifying. As long as they were given time, they would be able to break through the illusion in their minds and see through their desires. Even if they were trapped, they would not be trapped for long. With King Xiao Yarrow's profound cultivation, his realm was stable, and his willpower was incomparably tenacious. With the power of Heaven's heart, it could only temporarily trap him. Once Sakura's zither music stopped, he would instantly wake up. He had to forcefully suppress the various desires in his heart. Therefore, he did not dare to stop playing. However, Di Shitian was not only capable of this. The second movement, Rise of Evil. Di Shitian had practiced the divine melody of 7 sins more than 100,000 times. He was extremely familiar with each movement. When he played it, it was as smooth as flowing water. With a thought, the sound of the guqin began to move. As one listened, one would immediately realize that the sound of the guqin under his hands gradually became more hurried. The sound of the guqin instantly became more passionate. Look at Freedom King. In the void, wisps of formless black gas appeared. Under the influence of the guqin, they condensed into strange notes and rushed into his body through his pores. However, in his mind, there was a different scene. It was a beautiful paradise filled with birds and fragrant flowers. There was an exquisite and majestic palace. Countless treasures surrounded the palace, emitting endless light. Inside the palace, there were many palace maids with graceful figures dancing to the music. Their graceful dance was like a dream, beautiful and splendid. Just taking a look at it was a supreme pleasure. The sounds of nature reverberated throughout the palace, echoing endlessly. On the throne of the palace, King Xiao Yarrow was surrounded by countless concubines. They were all holding wine cups, fruits, spirit essences, and delicacies. His hands would occasionally caress the private parts of these women. His luck with women was truly overwhelming. Countless people in the myriad realms were envious. Looking at those concubines, they all had different temperaments. There was coldness, boldness, shyness, and elegance. When gathered together, it was truly a beautiful scene with a myriad of bearings. It was too much for one's eyes to take in, and it would probably cause any man to be mesmerized on the spot. If there were other knowledgeable experts present, they would discover that these women were all famous peerless heavenly maidens in the world. For example, Guanghan Fairy, Chishi Fairy, Heartless Witch, Baihua Fairy, and so on. It almost included the figures of all the heavenly ladies in the myriad realms. As expected of King Xiaoyao, the greatest desire in his heart was to take in all the heavenly ladies in the myriad realms into his harem. This wish was truly grand. However, in an instant, Di Shitian played the second movement, the moment of evil tribulation. The expressions of the many heavenly maidens, who were originally gentle in the palace, changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with unforgettable hatred as they looked at unfettered King. King Xiaoyao, how dare you blaspheme me? You deserve to die. The heartless witch's expression instantly became as cold as iron. A light flashed in her hand, and a strange demonic blade that was so cold that it seemed to be able to completely freeze the entire world turned into a cold light and blasted toward King Xiaoyao. Whale Devourer of the North. Unfettered King's mind was bewitched, but he was still startled and came to his senses. Seeing the heartless demonic saber slashing toward him, he didn't even think about it and hurriedly executed the Northern Underworld Whale Devourer of the Northern Underworld Heavenly Change. His surroundings turned into a strange area. It was dark and deep, like the Northern Underworld Sea that had been shrunk countless times. Any light or primordial chi that entered this area would be instantly devoured. This was his unique domain, the North Sea region. Coupled with his own cultivation method, he could devour everything. However, when the heartless demonic blade slashed in this area, an ice-cold heartless demonic chi that could make one's heart fall into despair swept across the area. Waves of ice crystals condensed in the air, about to freeze the entire North Sea region. King Xiaoyao, you have to pay a price that you can't imagine for blaspheming me. The Guanghan Fairy's expression was cold. A silver-white crescent-shaped blade appeared in her hand. The blade seemed to contain the most terrifying power of extreme yin in the world. As soon as it appeared, countless terrifying frost condensed in the air. Even the air was about to be frozen in an instant. With a wave of her hand, the moon crystal wheel, a primordial spiritual treasure, drew a dazzling divine light and slashed toward King Xiaoyao. What's going on? I was obviously fighting with that Sakura Shitian. Why would this heartless demoness and fairy Guang Han appear here and attack this king without distinguishing between right and wrong? No, I've been tricked. This is not the outside world. This is an illusion. Powerful, powerful indeed. What a powerful piece of music. It can actually arouse the desire in my heart. What kind of music is this? I've never heard anything like it. I'm afraid that even the ninth heaven ecstasy of the Qin family is inferior to it. King Xiaoyao was completely shocked. Di Shitian, who he had never really regarded as an opponent, suddenly became very serious. Xiao Chen thought to himself, the first section of the zither music made me unconsciously fall into an illusion, drowning me in desire. The second section actually made the illusions in my heart counterattack and attack me. Terrifying, truly terrifying. All of this flashed through his mind like a flash of lightning. Seeing the illusion formed by desire attacking him, his expression changed slightly. Oh no, these heavenly girls are all formed from my imagination. They have the most powerful strength. I'm now in an illusion. This should be my spirit. Once I'm injured or even killed by them, my spirit will dissipate. At this moment, he truly realized the terror of the divine melody of seven sins. The heartless demoness was one of the most terrifying peerless geniuses of the demonic path in ancient times. She cultivated the heartless demonic art that she accidentally obtained. The cultivator of this art was heartless and emotionless. Her methods were cruel and callous. Her heartless demonic saber had tasted the blood of countless living beings in ancient times. It was rumored that she had stepped into the realm of peerless experts. Fortunately, the heartless witch in this illusion did not have the terrifying strength of a peerless expert. Otherwise, she could poke him to death with a finger. But she also had the combat strength of an ancient giant. In the palace, there were no less than hundreds of heavenly girls. If they attacked him together, even with Carefree King's ability, he would be killed in an instant. Black Crystal Divine Steely, protect the spirit and suppress the evil. However, Carefree King did not panic because of this. He took a deep breath. Suddenly, a divine stele that was as black as ink and glowed like crystal emerged from the top of his head. Looking at the divine stele, countless mysterious lines intertwined to form countless profound principles. A strange aura was emitted from the divine stele. It glowed and instantly covered his entire body under the divine stele. A strange heavenly sound faintly sounded from the divine stele. It made his spirit clear. The various desires that had arisen in his heart quickly dissipated like snowflakes in summer. Buzz! The divine stele shook, and the crystal light on the stele surged. It instantly repelled the heartless demonic saber and the moon crystal wheel. In the crystal light, countless phantoms of the divine stele quickly flew out from the stele. They exuded an ancient aura and suppressed all the heavenly girls in the palace. The terrifying thing was that all the heavenly girls did not seem to have the slightest ability to resist in front of these phantoms of the divine stele. They were smashed into pieces on the spot. Oh no, Carefree King has the black crystal divine stele. Who is this guy? How can he even have such a divine item? Quick, lunatic emperor, kill him with the heavenly punishment divine eye. Otherwise, with your incomplete 7 sins divine melody, I'm afraid you can't do anything to him. This black crystal divine stele is a supreme divine item for the cultivation of the spirit. When Unfettered King summoned the black crystal godly stele, a palm-sized phantom of a godly stele appeared above his head. It hovered above his head and spun, emitting a crystal light that protected his entire body. Countless musical notes emerged from the 7 sins demonic zither, but they were blocked by the crystal light. The musical notes violently attacked the divine stele. The divine stele kept shaking, but it could not break through the protection of the crystal light and rush into Carefree King's body. What is the black crystal divine stele? Di Shitian's heart froze. He looked at the ancient divine stele with a strange light in his eyes. It could block the sound of the zither. This was the 7 sins divine melody, and even the power of the divine melody could not break it. From this, one could already feel how magical it was. Now is not the time to talk about this. Use the heavenly punishment divine eye to kill him. The black crystal divine stele can only protect the spirit and block attacks directed at the spirit. It can't block the attack with the divine eye. Ming shouted anxiously. Heavenly punishment divine eye, annihilation. Between his brows, the divine eye instantly opened. A vast majestic aura immediately burst out in all directions like a tide. Streaks of purple-gold divine light continuously flickered and rippled on the surface of the divine eye like flowing water. It looked at the common people indifferently. Swoosh! With a thought, a destructive annihilation divine light burst out from the divine eye. It broke through the void like lightning and bombarded Carefree King's body domineeringly. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 713. Whoosh, whoosh. The annihilation divine light had the most terrifying destructive power, and its power would increase as the user improved. Once the user reached the demon saint level, he could destroy a lesser thousand world with a single glance. The lesser thousand world would be annihilated instantly. It would turn into dust. Once the user reached the heavenly demon level, even the greater thousand world would collapse on the spot with a single glance. It would completely collapse. It was simply an overbearing divine power with pure destructive power. Wherever the divine light passed, the void would be destroyed inch by inch. In an instant, it appeared 100 feet in front of Unfettered King. However, the strange thing was that when it was 100 feet in front of him, the northern underworld sea region suddenly appeared beside him. In this area, the entire void seemed to have become abnormally deep in an instant. It collapsed inwards, and all the surrounding chi of heaven and earth was crazily swallowed by it. The divine light rushed into the northern underworld sea region. Immediately, it collided with the terrifying swallowing force. In the divine light, the annihilation divine light exploded. Wherever the divine light went, the entire northern underworld sea region shook violently and was annihilated inch by the annihilation divine light. However, the terrifying swallowing force became stronger and stronger. Although the northern underworld sea region was damaged, it recovered in an instant. The divine light of annihilation only swept for a while before a powerful swallowing force instantly bound the divine light and swallowed it in one fell swoop. Even the annihilation divine light was swallowed. Hiss. When Ming saw this, he couldn't help but gasp and cry out, even the divine light of annihilation can't destroy the northern underworld sea region. This northern underworld heavenly change is indeed a demonic technique created by that freak. No wonder that old guy was like a crab back then and ran rampant in ancient times. If he cultivated it to the extreme, he would be able to devour all kinds of magical powers and spells. This is not good. Unfettered King's cultivation is above yours. He also has the black crystal divine stele to protect his divine soul. The feather fan in his hand is probably a supreme treasure. Run, now is the time to run. Seeing this scene, Ming decisively suggested to Di Shitian. The current unfettered king was simply invincible. Go. Di Shitian was not inflexible. Even the annihilation divine light could not do anything to unfettered king, nor could it break through his external domain. He had already clearly realized that the gap in cultivation between him and unfettered king was too great. This gap was no longer something that could be closed with secret techniques. He was almost an expert that he couldn't match up to now. Where there is life, there is hope. With Bai Hu and the others gone, he no longer had any worries. Annihilation divine light, break the seal for I. Without even thinking, he brushed his hand across the body of the zither. Immediately, the 3 spiritual pearls embedded in the body of the zither glowed with divine light at the same time. 3 waves of origin energy spread out along with the zither music. Suddenly, the ground of the island began to shake violently like waves. Earthen yellow divine dragons emerged from the ground. At the same time, all kinds of grass, trees, and vines on the ground seemed to have been greatly stimulated. They grew crazily and became extremely aggressive. They swept toward unfettered king with great offensive power. At the same time, countless sound blades containing the origin of gold cut the vacuum sharply. A beam of annihilation divine light shot out from the divine eye and blasted toward the top of his head. Rumble. The annihilation divine light was extremely domineering. Although it could not do anything to the northern underworld sea outside unfettered king, the seal outside was instantly pierced through like bubbles in front of the annihilation divine light. It blasted a large hole in the void above the island. You want to leave? Stay here. However, just as Sakura was about to drive the numinous sky throne under him to escape from that big hole, Sakura suddenly appeared. An indifferent voice suddenly reverberated in the air above the island. Unfettered King opened his eyes and stood quietly on the back of the Kuan Peng under his feet. He was surrounded by the northern underworld sea. All attacks that entered this area were swallowed up like whales. He waved the feather fan in his hand casually at Di Shitian, who was about to escape. Howl. A ball of crimson flame shot out from the feather fan and quickly condensed into a lifelike giant vermilion bird. The vermilion bird screeched and directly charged toward Di Shitian. Rumble. The vermilion bird was extremely fast. It crossed the void and appeared in front of Di Shitian. It fiercely slammed into the soaring sky throne. With a loud boom, the entire vermilion bird exploded violently. Countless violent vermilion bird divine flames erupted in an instant, burning the entire void and causing it to collapse and turn into nothingness. It caused the entire space to collapse completely. The domineering power of the vermilion bird divine flames was completely released, as if it was going to burn everything. That power was something that even the ancient giants could not withstand. Bang! The countless seals on the soaring sky throne were instantly destroyed by the vermilion bird divine flames. It was the first to bear the brunt of the vermilion bird self-explosion and exploded on the spot. Spiritual pearl protection. Poof! The soaring sky throne exploded. The violent impact instantly blasted onto Di Shitian's body. He spat out a mouthful of purplish gold blood. However, his mind was unusually calm. Without thinking, he plucked the strings of the guqin. Instantly, the origin energy of the golden spiritual pearl landed on his body. On the spot, a layer of golden light condensed around his body. His physical body became many times stronger and turned into an invincible Vajra body. Outside his body, a yellow shield formed out of thin air. Countless ancient patterns appeared on the shield, exuding a heavy aura. At the same time, a green light entered his body. A strong vitality instantly filled his body and quickly healed his injuries. Boom! The vermilion bird divine flames erupted completely. The crimson divine flames enveloped the entire island in an instant. The soaring flames almost turned the island into a sea of fire. The flowers, plants, and trees on the island were burned to ashes in an instant. Freedom King stepped on the Kuan Peng and looked at the burning vermilion bird divine flames with a calm expression. In the Kuan Peng's eyes, there was a strong sense of sadness. At this moment, in the endless void, a cold snort suddenly sounded. The voice said coldly, "You dare to kill the demon emperor of the demon clan. Do you really think that the demon clan is weak and easy to bully? If we old guys don't do anything, you really think that we don't exist? Come, cudgel." Out of nowhere, a voice filled with anger sounded. Boom! The moment the voice sounded, in the sky above the island, a dazzling golden divine pillar suddenly came crashing down toward King Xiaoyaro from the void. In the cudgel, there was a domineering aura. It was not a divine pillar, but a golden cudgel. The cudgel came crashing down on his head. This cudgel seemed to have a strange trajectory. It made people watch as it came crashing down, but there was no way to dodge it. "Who is it?" Freedom King's indifferent expression changed abruptly. Under this golden staff, he could feel the aura of death. It was as if the surrounding void had been completely sealed by the cudgel. If the cudgel struck down, it would shatter the void. If the void was shattered, it would destroy the person inside as well. Without thinking, he activated the northern underworld heavenly change to the maximum. He waved the feather fan in his hand. Suddenly, the golden true sun fire condensed into a three-legged golden crow and rushed toward the cudgel. Bang! However, the three-legged golden crow that could burn an ancient giant into ashes was destroyed on the spot. It smashed unstoppably on Freedom King's body. Puff! Instantly, Freedom King's entire body was sent flying backwards like a rubber ball. He vomited mouthfuls of blood and his eyes were filled with horror. Even the northern underworld sea region could not completely swallow that terrifying power. When it landed on his body, he was severely injured. Freedom King was horrified. He could not help but roar crazily, "Impossible! Aren't the peerless experts restricted by the ruler's order? Are you not afraid of the ruler's order?" Bang! However, his words did not cause the golden club to stop at all. Instead, it smashed towards him again, smashing him into the ground. With a boom, he was smashed into the ground. Another sweep. Golden light instantly enveloped the island. All the vermilion bird divine fire quickly dissipated. What a terrifying vermilion bird divine fire. Di Shitian's body appeared. Countless cracks appeared all over his body. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. His face was abnormally pale. However, the moment he appeared, a pitch-black finger with boundless killing intent emerged from the top of his head and poked at Di Shitian. When this finger came down, it was as if the entire world was collapsing on top of his head. It poked Di Shitian's body at an unbelievably slow speed. Crack! An unstoppable and terrifying power poured down on his body. The unimaginable baleful power caused countless hideous and terrifying cracks to appear on the Sakra's treasured body on the spot. It was like broken porcelain. It was a ghastly sight. It was as if he would completely collapse at any moment. At the same time, a deep crack appeared in the void behind Di Shitian. In the face of this terrifying force, his entire body did not have the slightest ability to resist, and he was involuntarily thrown into the crack. Bang! The moment Di Shitian fell into the crack, a pitch-black chain crossed the void and appeared out of nowhere. It was about to wrap around Di Shitian. However, a finger suddenly tapped on the chain. In the void, the golden cudgel smashed towards the finger. Another pitch-black saber appeared out of nowhere and blocked the cudgel. Damn it, you actually banished the demon emperor of the demon clan. In just a short moment, the crack had completely healed. Di Shitian's body had completely disappeared. A voice with a hint of coldness and suppressed anger was heard. You've gone too far. The golden cudgel, with boundless fighting intent, shook violently and tore open the void, tearing a terrible crack. It went straight in. On the other side of the crack, it was filled with rich qi of heaven and earth. It seemed as if countless immortals were shuttling back and forth in the sky. The various auras made it seem like a paradise. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 714. Heaven Realm. A golden rod broke through the air and swayed in the wind. It became tens of thousands of feet long and smashed down toward a bustling ancient city in the Heaven Realm. As the cudgel fell, the countless restrictions in the ancient city were instantly destroyed, and the cudgel landed solidly on the ancient city. Rumble. Bursts of rumbling sounds, along with countless screams, instantly spread into the void. With one strike, half of the ancient city collapsed. Countless cultivators were smashed into meat paste and died on the spot. The cudgel flew into the air again and flew into the distance. For a time, only terrifying rumbling sounds could be heard coming from various places in the Heaven Realm. The entire Heaven Realm shook as if it was about to completely collapse. In just an instant, countless ears rushed out of the Heaven Realm and quickly fled in all directions. All kinds of information quickly spread to all places. Oh no, a golden stick came out of nowhere and smashed one of the oldest cities in the Heaven Realm, the ancient city of pilgrimage. Half of the city collapsed. There were countless casualties in the ancient city. Even the emperor-level masters were killed. I heard that one of the ancient giants might have fallen under the attack of that stick. Smash them into minced meat. Big news. That golden staff flew to the righteous peak where the righteous sect was located. With one swing of the staff, it was about to collapse the righteous peak. However, an iron scroll rushed out from the righteous sect and blocked the attack. The righteous peak shook and many of the sect's disciples were killed. Quickly spread the news. That golden rod ran to the immortal imperial dynasty's capital again. The 10,000 dragons' holy pilgrimage blocked the attack. However, the entire imperial capital was shaken by the confrontation. He smashed a hole in the sky. Heavens, he's running amok. He's really running amok. He actually smashed all the major sects in the Heaven Realm. However, what's that token that suddenly appeared? That token was truly terrifying. When it appeared, its pressure actually caused all the cultivators in the entire Heaven Realm to kneel down. Just the pressure alone was enough to blast that stick out of the Heaven Realm. A game. This must be a game between the peerless experts. On the spot, all kinds of news spread in all directions like a tide. Every piece of news caused the various worlds, the various greater thousand worlds, and even the countless lesser thousand worlds to tremble violently in shock. Who knew how many experts were secretly terrified? The hidden meaning that was revealed faintly couldn't be hidden from the experts who were truly at the top. Almost instantly, all the major forces and sects smelled the scent. The demon race indeed has an ancient demon god that hasn't fallen. Who's the one with the golden rod? What on earth is going on? How could it awaken these ancient demon gods that should have been asleep? Could it be that some idiot wants to completely destroy the foundation of the demon race? He wanted to wipe out the entire Yarrow clan. Otherwise, why would this kind of old fellow be alarmed? Ignoring the restrictions of the sovereign's decree, you dare to act so recklessly. The demon races, the demon races, demons' demon race. Back in the ancient times, the demon race was at its peak. They had 36 ancient demon gods. I wonder how many of them are still alive. If the demon race's primogenitors were still alive, they would be at the peak of the peerless experts. If they were to awaken, the entire Heaven Realm would be turned upside down. For a moment, in the Heaven Realm, Many noble existences who stood at the peak of the world began to ponder. A single stick stirred up the entire heavens and myriad realms. Bang! In the endless void, countless terrifying cracks appeared on the island that was in the middle of the battle at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, they spread to all the areas densely. Like a broken mirror, with a loud bang, the island collapsed inch by inch, turning into pieces of gravel that were swept into the endless void. They turned into a meteor stream. Puff! Under the collapse of the island, the originally extraordinary Freedom King rushed out with a pale face. He spat out several mouthfuls of essence blood. The flat imperial crown on his head was beaten to an unknown place. His hair was disheveled and he looked like a mess. He continuously coughed up blood and pointed at the void with a flustered and exasperated expression. He cursed, "Old man, I'm also a peerless expert. When I become a peerless expert, I'll definitely get back at you for what you did to me today. Fortunately, I'm wearing the carnate spiritual treasure, the northern underworld heavenly robe. Otherwise, I would have been smashed to death by that rod." There was no need to say how angry Freedom King was. Originally, he was only dealing with a demon emperor whose cultivation was only at the 9th transformation stage of the demon core. His strength, with the enhancement of the return to void mask, could only reach the demon saint level. Against him, with his peerless strength, even if Di Shitian had all kinds of peerless divine powers, under the difference of their realms, he could still easily kill him. Who would have thought that at the last moment, he would provoke the hidden demon god of the demon race? He was almost smashed to death by that rod. Now, it seemed that even his mount, the Kuanping, had been taken away. This was simply a double loss for them. He could not vent the anger in his heart, and his face kept twitching. Humph! The land of exile. That's good. Few who enter the land of exile can come out. Wait until I recover, then I'll make a trip to the demon city. Freedom King took a deep breath, waved his long sleeve, and tore a crack in the void. He turned and entered the crack, disappearing. The land of exile. This was a strange world. In the air, there were all kinds of primordial chi and all kinds of boundless evil chi. In the air, one could clearly see wisps of condensed blood-red killing intent. In this place, all kinds of primordial chi could be seen. Demonic chi, evil chi, five elements chi, yin-yang force, dragon chi, sea serpent chi, poison chi, miasma chi. In all the heavens and realms, all kinds of primordial chi could be clearly felt in the air. Moreover, it was unusually rich. It was different from the acquired primordial chi that permeated the purple-gold mainland. The primordial chi here was actually emitting a strange carnate chi. It was full of spirituality. A place with all kinds of primordial chi, and carnate primordial chi, was definitely a cultivation treasure land that countless people in all the heavens and realms dreamed of. However, at a glance, the ground was covered with all kinds of corpses. Flowers, plants, and trees were rooted on the corpses, and they grew very thick. The continuous mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. In the sky, a strange black sun hung in the void. It emitted an endless amount of 9 underworlds demonic chi, which spat out and covered the whole world. It filled the world with a vast amount of demonic chi. In front of the demonic chi, other primordial chi were not worth a single thing. Bang! In a wasteland, a crack appeared out of nowhere, and a figure fell from the crack, smashing down from a height of 3 feet. The surface of the figure was like a broken ceramic, and his skin was covered with hideous and terrifying cracks. They were densely packed, and they covered his entire body. Even his face was covered with the same cracks. It was unusually scary. Traces of blood seeped out from the cracks. Puff! Di Shitian looked at the scene around him. His body was unable to fly, and was instantly bound by an invisible force, falling straight to the ground. However, he did not panic because of this unforeseen event. He turned his body, bent his legs slightly, and landed on the ground with a bang. A wave of impact hit his body. On the spot, it affected the injuries in his body, and he spat out a mouthful of purple gold blood. Unparalleled expert, this is the strength of an unparalleled expert. I didn't even have the strength to resist. Strength, this is the difference in strength. Di Shitian took a deep breath, and the previous scenes flashed through his mind like a flash of lightning. The short exchange with the carefree king, the sudden appearance of the golden staff, and the pitch-black finger at the end. He even suffered heavy injuries without being able to resist. In his heart, he had a clear understanding of the strength of the true ancient giants, and even the unparalleled experts. I have to break through as soon as possible. The 9th transformation of the Yarodan is too weak for those experts. Secret techniques can't be relied on. Once I reach the demon saint level, I won't have the ability to condense my cultivation and instantly increase it. I can only use it as a battle technique. He secretly made up his mind. However, the bursts of pain coming from all over his body woke him up from his thoughts. Looking at his current injuries, he could not help but smile bitterly. That finger, not only did it penetrate the 3 spiritual pearls around him, but also caused countless terrifying cracks to appear on his treasured body. Not only his treasured body, but even the bones in his body were full of cracks, and his internal organs were severely damaged. His injuries were so serious that they could not be any worse. If not for his demonic body, which was only a step away from an immortal body, he would have collapsed on the spot. Awoo. Thinking of his injuries, although he did not know where he was, finding a place to heal his injuries was the most important thing. As he scanned his surroundings, he saw that he was in a plain, and a terrifying wolf howl pierced his ears. That howl carried a ferocious and bloody aura. A pitch-black figure quickly ran over from afar. With Sakra's sharp gaze, he instantly saw clearly that it was actually a beast with 2 heads, and its entire body was pitch black. Its spine was narrow, and its back was arched, causing it to seem like a pitch-black devilish blade. The 2 pairs of eyes were filled with a brutal bloody light. Oh no, it's the 2-headed demonic wolf from the demon god continent, Dark exclaimed in surprise. Di Shitian took a deep breath and twisted his wrist. With a clang, he instantly pulled out the tiger soul from his back. With a thought, he was about to activate his cultivation technique and infuse the remaining royal true force into the blade. However, as soon as he activated his cultivation technique, a trace of shock appeared in his mind. What's going on? My true force is unable to leave my body and infuse into the tiger soul. Although he was shocked, he did not hesitate in the slightest. Seeing that the 2-headed demonic wolf was pouncing towards him from hundreds of feet away, he took a step forward, bent his legs, and squatted down. At the same time, he raised the tiger soul, and the blade slashed straight at the demonic wolf's abdomen. It's hard to convince everyone. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidien.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 7:15. Under the tempering of the Wuji illusory land, Di Shitian's combat skills had reached a level where he could wield them with a wave of his arm. Even without the support of the royal true force, a casual wave of his sword was extremely powerful. From the moment the demonic wolf pounced to the moment the tiger soul was wielded, it only took a blink of an eye. The speed of the saber was so fast that the demonic wolf did not have any chance to dodge. Crack! The tiger soul itself had endless sharpness. The sharpness of the saber could even break a divine weapon. The saber slashed across the demonic wolf's abdomen at lightning speed. Demonic blood gushed out from the wound. The demonic wolf's body was cut into 2 halves. There was a strong demonic nature in the demonic blood. If it came into contact with the demonic blood, there was a possibility that one would turn into a demon. Di Shitian moved his feet and dodged to the side. Puff! This action affected the injuries in his body. The cracks on the treasure body became even more sinister and terrifying, as if it would shatter at any moment. His body trembled violently, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. I have to leave this place quickly. Sakra quickly scanned the surroundings. In the east, there was a dense forest. He didn't even think about it and quickly rushed forward. With the fastest speed that his body could sustain, he left this desolate land. In a few breaths' time, he rushed into the dense forest. Under his feet, he could see all kinds of wreckage. Sometimes, when he stepped on them, the wreckage would break. He randomly found a towering ancient tree and extended the tiger soul. In a few moves, he dug a hole in the tree and quickly entered it. He sealed the hole and tried his best to conceal his aura. Awoo! Indeed, after he left, thousands of demonic wolves rushed over from all directions and gathered around the demonic wolf that was cut into two halves. Their eyes were filled with cruelty. They howled a few times and pounced on the demonic wolf. In an instant, they carved up the demonic wolf's flesh and chewed it. Bang! 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 From afar, there were terrifying rumbles coming from the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. A 300 feet tall giant with bronze skin strode over from afar. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the wasteland and saw thousands of demonic wolves. He raised his leg and stomped down, causing a terrifying sound to ring out. A large number of demonic wolves were trampled into meat paste on the spot. The rest of the demonic wolves immediately fled in all directions. There was a crack here just now. It looks like there's another newcomer who was exiled here. He didn't expect him to leave so quickly. It seemed that this newcomer wasn't simple. Let's see if you can hold on. He just didn't know which race had been sent here. I don't know when this damned place will end. The Cyclops glanced around, paused for a moment, then turned and left. After that, quite a few other exiles who had obviously been in the area rushed over from afar. When they ran into each other, they looked on warily. After a few glances, they left, as if they had guessed that more exiles had entered the area. Oh no! Lunatic DI, I'm afraid we've fallen into the legendary land of exile. After DI Shitian dug a hole in the tree and hid himself, Ming remained silent for a long time before she spoke. There was a hint of bitterness in Ming's tone. The land of exile? When Sakura heard this name, he couldn't help but quickly ponder in his mind. He muttered, just now, I felt that the royal true power in my body seemed to be under some strange restriction. It was actually bound in my physical body. There's no way to pour it into the tiger soul. Furthermore, there's no way to fly in the air. The 9 underworlds' demonic chi is extremely dense in the world. Even the demonic beasts of the demonic god continent appear here. Could all of this have something to do with this land of exile? Earlier, when Xiao Chen faced the demonic wolves, he had sensed the difference and the various restrictions on his body after a short battle. The changes in the spiritual energy of the world outside. All sorts of situations instantly entered his mind. Lunatic DI, this matter is extraordinarily bad. Damn it, that old fellow is really ruthless. He actually exiled you here. He clearly does not want you to return to the various worlds. I want to banish you for all eternity. Ming gnashed her teeth and shouted with a fierce expression. The land of exile was terrifying. Even with her experience, she could feel how terrifying it was. As Di Shitian listened carefully, the light in his eyes became deeper and deeper. There was a deep sense of anger and fury hidden in it. However, she did not say it out loud. Instead, she buried it deep in her heart. The land of exile. As long as one knew the name of this place, their expression would change greatly when they heard it in the myriad of worlds. Even the ancient powerhouses would be shocked. The land of exile did not belong to the source continent nor the demonic god continent. Legend had it that it existed between the two continents. It was a strange world that evolved from a piece of chaos fragment. It was independent of the two continents. The rules of the two worlds could not restrain the land of exile at all. However, the strange thing was that the land of exile seemed to have some sort of connection with the other two heavens and earth. It was very strange. The reason why the experts of the various worlds were shocked when they talked about the land of exile was that the land of exile could be said to be an invisible prison that could only be entered but not exited. Moreover, the land of exile was shrouded in a strange rule. Once one entered the land of exile, it was impossible to use one's cultivation to fly in the air. It was almost impossible to fly in the air. At the same time, the cultivation and spiritual power in one's body would be imprisoned in one's body and could not be infused into any weapons. It was even more impossible to use spells or superpowers. The only thing that could be used was one's own body. Moreover, the Yuan Qi in the land of exile was filled with strange power. It was impossible to refine it when it was absorbed into one's body. Instead, it would cause one to fall into a terrifying state of madness and go mad. Although the world was filled with all kinds of carnate yuan qi, no one dared to directly absorb it. Once the spiritual power in one's body was depleted, it was not easy to replenish it. One could not even fly in the air here. Moreover, the space barrier was extremely tough and unimaginably solid. It was easy to break it from the outside, but it was almost impossible to break the space barrier from the inside without the strength of an ancient powerhouse. Even an ancient powerhouse might not be able to break it open. This place was an eternal land of exile, an eternal cage. Once one entered, it was simply a ridiculous, extravagant hope to get out. One might not even be able to survive here. Nether paused for a moment before she continued in a heavy tone. The most terrifying thing is that cultivators from the quintessence world aren't the only ones who have been exiled in the land of exile. A large number of fiend gods and magical beasts have been exiled on the fiend god continent as well. Especially the magical beasts. Their reproductive ability is terrifying. I'm afraid countless magical beast clans have taken root in the land of exile. The laws here are extremely cruel. They fight the heavens, the earth, the fiend gods, and the magical beasts. It was unknown how many experts had died here. You can guess this by looking at the corpses on the ground. Di Shitian's expression was solemn. When he thought of the ground covered with all kinds of corpses along the way, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He could feel the tragic place. In this place, the rule of survival of the fittest was absolutely extreme. It is said that the sun here has two types of transformations. During the day, it is a blood moon, from which a large amount of carnate yuan qi is poured in. During the night, it is a black sun, which spits out endless 9 underworld demonic qi. During the night, it is the most dangerous time. At this time, Ming did not hide anything. He opened his mouth and told Di Shitian everything he knew, increasing his chances of survival in this place. Also, lunatic Di, try probing the void with your demonic consciousness. Ming said with unusual caution. Without hesitation, Di Shitian believed that Ming would not harm him. Disregarding the serious injuries he had suffered, he probed the void with his demonic consciousness. Swoosh. At the same time, it seemed to have triggered some rule. A mysterious force instantly descended. In front of him, a crystal-like spirit tablet strangely condensed. It was only the size of a palm. On the crystal jade tablet, a number appeared: lifespan, 100,000. What is this? Is it replacing my lifespan? Di Shitian looked at the crystal tablet and couldn't help but frown. He thought to himself, since I became a great ancient demon, my lifespan is almost endless. As long as I am not killed by others, it is possible for me to live as long as the heavens and earth. How can I only have 100,000 years of lifespan? When he realized that what was in front of him could be his lifespan, he felt a sense of strangeness and fear towards this place of exile. I once heard my master, the Emperor of the Dead, say that every exile who enters this place of exile will condense a natal heaven tablet according to the rules of this place of exile. This natal heaven tablet is the symbol of identity in this place of exile. As for the details, even I don't know. However, this natal heaven tablet must be extremely important. Ming shook his head and said, I can feel that if this natal heaven tablet breaks, a great terror will descend upon me. Di Shitian took a deep breath and looked at the natal heaven tablet in front of him cautiously. He carefully put away the natal heaven tablet and directly put it into his body. Only then did he put all his other thoughts aside and began to truly examine his injuries. This examination had already reached a terrifying state. If it was an ordinary injury, with the powerful healing ability of his treasure body, it would have healed on the surface by now. What was truly frightening about this injury was that there was a frightening baleful force within the cracks and wounds. This baleful force had completely cut off one's recovery ability. Moreover, it was continuously destroying one's physical body. If he didn't get rid of this evil force, his injuries would never heal and would become more and more serious. Until his physical body collapse. The fiendish energy was like a bone-chomping worm that wanted to kill him. It's hard to please everyone. I've been reading the book reviews recently, and I can accept any problems with the writing. I've also tried my best to avoid nagging and keep the content concise. However, there are some book reviews that I don't know whether to laugh or cry. If the protagonist's life is smooth sailing, then some people say that it's too smooth sailing. If those peerless geniuses don't have the strength, then when they encounter some setbacks, they'll just torment the protagonist. Hihi, regarding these, I can only say that writing a book is like writing a life. It's impossible for it to be smooth sailing forever, and it's impossible for it to be full of setbacks. It's hard to please everyone. I don't want to say more. I will just write according to the original idea. In terms of the plot, I won't change it easily. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 7:16. Closing his eyes, he circulated the remaining royal true power in his body. The purplish gold royal true power quickly circulated along the demon meridians in his body. Following the countless branches of the demon meridians, it merged into his flesh and blood to nourish his broken treasure body. However, as soon as it entered his body, a pitch-black baleful force emerged from his flesh and blood and collided with the royal true power. That strand of baleful force transformed into a pitch-black baleful spirit, brandishing a baleful blade and pouncing towards him with bared fangs and claws. In an instant, the royal true power transformed into an emperor wearing a purplish gold robe. In his hand, he held a jade seal that was filled with emperor chi. A tyrannical seal smashed towards the baleful spirit. This exchange actually took a full 15 minutes. Although the baleful spirit formed by the baleful force did not look big, it was unusually condensed. The quality of the baleful force was unbelievably high and had a strong corrosive power. It was unusually stubborn. Even though Di Shitian had the royal true power in his body, it still took him a full 15 minutes to disperse the baleful force. The true power quickly entered his flesh and blood, causing the deathly still flesh and blood to surge with a huge amount of vitality. One could see that on the treasure body, there was a crack that was not damaged by the baleful force. It was healing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it was completely healed. A sparkling treasure light was circulating on it. This baleful force is actually so difficult to deal with. It's like a parasite. Now that I am in the banished land, I am unable to absorb the heaven and earth essence chi from the outside. The true power that is consumed cannot be recovered. After expelling the baleful force, Di Shitian could not help but open his eyes. Just one strand of baleful force took him no less than 15 minutes to get rid of it. Now, his entire body was filled with baleful force. It was not just 1,000 strands, but tens of thousands. It was distributed to every inch of his flesh and blood. If he were to rely on himself to get rid of it, he would need to spend hundreds of years to get rid of it. Most importantly, Ming had said that the energy of the heavens and the earth in the world of exile was utterly impossible to absorb directly into his body. Otherwise, it would cause his imperial true energy to go berserk, and once it went berserk, his entire body would probably collapse on the spot. If he was unable to absorb the heaven and earth origin chi, then if he wanted to recover his true power, he would have to rely on his cultivation technique to transport it over and over again. Who knew how long it would take for him to completely recover? However, it was not that there was no other way. Relying on pills, or even spirit wine, all kinds of heaven and earth spirit herbs, it could allow one's true power to recover quickly. The heavenly elemental pellet is a sacred item for cultivation. However, the majority of them are stored in the royal heavenly treasury. Excluding the ones I used during this period of time, I don't even have 3 million heavenly elemental pellets with me. Once it was used up, it would really be gone. He had to plan carefully. There was also spirit wine. He still had 1,000 source of life left. These will be the things I can rely on to establish myself in the exiled lands. Di Shitian secretly estimated all the items he had on him that could be used. In an abandoned land like this, where one could not even absorb the heaven and earth yuan chi, Every heavenly yuan pill could save one's life at a critical moment. It was extremely precious. He secretly calculated all the things he had on him in his mind. A trace of determination flashed across his heart. He extended his hand and took out a snow-white jade box from his inner world. He carefully opened the jade box. Inside the jade box, there were 10 jade green source of life. He took out one source of life from the jade box and carefully closed the jade box. He put it back into his inner world. Without any hesitation, he directly opened his mouth and swallowed the source of life. Vine. A vast amount of source of life immediately gushed out from his body and spread out through his pores. It formed a thick jade-green fog that enveloped his entire body in this huge amount of life essence. The sun rose and set. The sun in the exiled lands turned from black to red, and from red to black. It had cycled 3 times in total. The black sun represented the night, and the blood sun represented the day. The 3 cycles meant that 3 days had passed here. Whoosh! In the tree hole, the jade-green fog rolled violently with a long exhalation sound. It was quickly absorbed into his body through his pores. In the blink of an eye, it was swallowed into his body. Swoosh! When he opened his eyes, a resplendent radiance shot out to a distance of 3 jong. It pierced 2 big holes in the tree hole that he was hiding in. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying cracks on his face and body had completely disappeared. His entire precious body was emitting waves of precious light. The bones in his body had also been mended. In his flesh, it was as pure as a whole. There was a strong force moving through every inch of his flesh. Inside the 9th tier Black Lotus in the Spirit Demon Palace, waves after waves of pure royal true power flowed like spring water. Not only did it recover his true power, but it also allowed him to take another step forward. The royal true power in the Black Lotus had already occupied 1/5 of the entire Black Lotus. Waves after waves of powerful true power shuttled back and forth in his flesh. Under the miraculous power of the source of life, the injuries on his body had completely disappeared. He had even reached an unprecedented peak state. Swoosh! With a thought, a light flashed in his hand. One could see that the natal heaven tablet was instantly condensed in front of him. 99,997? A number appeared on the natal heaven tablet. This scene made Di Shitian slightly shocked. He thought to himself, if the number on this natal heaven tablet represents my lifespan, then the decreasing number should be my lifespan decreasing. However, I have only spent 3 days here. How could my lifespan decrease by 3 years? Could it be that one day in this banished land will consume 1 year of my lifespan? He could vaguely feel that his lifespan seemed to be decreasing. It seems that I need to quickly explore the banished land. However, before that, I need to carefully experiment. Di Shitian looked at the decreasing number on the natal heaven tablet, and an invisible pressure appeared in his heart. The banished land, to him, was definitely a strange place that he did not know anything about. Moreover, just by looking at the natal heaven tablet, he could feel how cruel it was to survive in this world. Taking a deep breath, Di Shitian sat down cross-legged again. With a thought, he activated the Emperor Shocking World Book and began to absorb the vast carnate vital chi that existed in the world around him. Although Ming had said that the vital chi of heaven and earth could not be absorbed directly in this world, once it entered the body, it would become abnormally violent. Not only could it not be refined into one's own spiritual power, but it would also cause harm to one's body. However, he did not believe Ming's explanation so easily. He wanted to try it himself. Using the power of the Emperor Shocking World Book, the vital chi of heaven and earth around him immediately rushed into his body through his pores like a tide, as if it was a pervert who had seen a beautiful woman. However, Di Shitian was still cautious. He only wanted to test the vital chi of heaven and earth in the banished land. He did not intend to absorb it wantonly. After absorbing the carnate vital chi into his body, he immediately sealed his pores and prevented the vital chi of heaven and earth from entering his body. Looking at his body, the colorful Xiantian Yuan chi rushed into his flesh and blood. It immediately became abnormally violent and began to destroy wantonly. When it rushed into the demon vein, it did not fuse with the royal true force at all. Instead, It fiercely collided with each other. A violent and strange thought directly rushed into his mind and into his mind. Once this thought entered, he was afraid that he would completely explode on the spot. Di Shitian was already mentally prepared for this. When he sensed the change, he did not panic. He shouted in his heart, "Heavenly demon mansion, demon refining cauldron, let me devour the strange power. Jade cauldron 9 revolutions, refine the vital chi." Buzz. With a thought, the body of the demon refining cauldron, which was suppressing everything in the demon mansion, suddenly shook and let out a clear sonic boom. The cauldron instantly emitted a mysterious devouring force. It spread out from the demon mansion and quickly swept through the flesh and blood of all the demon veins in his body. Everywhere it went, he saw that the carnate vital chi that was about to go completely berserk was pulled away from his body and demon veins by the strange devouring power emitted by the demon refining cauldron. It was bound and swept into the demon mansion. In an instant, colorful carnate vital chi emerged from all directions in the demon mansion. It was very beautiful. However, in the blink of an eye, it was all devoured by the demon refining cauldron. The cauldron was empty. The pure vital chi that was originally accumulated had been completely absorbed. Only a 9th-grade black lotus was spinning on top of it. Boom, boom, boom. After the demon refining cauldron absorbed all the carnate vital chi from the outside world into the cauldron, it immediately began to spin. On the cauldron, countless mysterious cauldron inscriptions flew out and rushed into the cauldron. There seemed to be a strange power that constantly shuttled through the carnate vital chi. Although he did not know what was going on, after each shuttling through the carnate vital chi, the violent will in the vital chi would strangely weaken a lot. After the demon refining cauldron 9 revolutions. In the cauldron, the colorful carnate vital chi had its violent will wiped out and turned into the purest and most original carnate vital chi. No, looking at the vital chi in the cauldron that had already turned into liquid, it should now be called carnate liquid. It was colorful and had any attribute, but it could be absorbed and transformed by any cultivation method. It can refine all kinds of vital chi in the world and refine them into the purest and most gentle energy for absorption. This is the key to the heavenly demon mansion's power. Di Shitian's heart flashed with joy. The heavenly demon mansion was the reason why countless experts of the demon clan yearned for it. It was indeed the ability to refine any kind of vital chi in the world. With the demon refining cauldron, he could freely absorb the vital chi in the banished land that others could not absorb. The banished land would not be able to restrict his cultivation progress. Moreover, the banished land was filled with carnate vital chi. The vital chi was abnormally abundant. The energy absorbed and transformed in just a moment was something that could only be obtained in the outside world for at least a day. As long as he could absorb it, the speed of his cultivation in the banished land would be immeasurable. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 717. The heavenly demon mansion could break through the restrictions of the banished land. To Di Shitian, this was definitely an immeasurable joyous matter. Haha, good. Lunatic Di, no wonder even the ancient demon gods who became peerless experts envied the heavenly demon mansion. It turns out that the demon refining cauldron has such a miraculous power. It can even devour and refine the innate yuan qi of the banished land. With the abundant yuan qi here, your cultivation speed will soar to the heavens. Ming sensed the result of Indra's probing and couldn't help but be overjoyed. He cried out, "This place is the most terrifying place of exile for others, but perhaps it is the rarest cultivation treasure ground in the myriad of worlds in the universe for you. Being able to absorb the innate yuan qi, your cultivation speed will increase by leaps and bounds. There are fierce killings and battles here that can temper your battle skills and increase your experience. Perhaps you can cultivate to become a demon saint or even a heavenly demon here. In the land of exile, the greatest restriction to the countless experts who were banished here was that they couldn't absorb the heaven and earth origin qi. Once this restriction was broken, Who would dare to say that Sakura wouldn't be able to walk on the path of a legend here? My injuries have healed. I should go out and see what kind of world this banished land is. Putting the natal sky tablet back into his body, he walked out of the treehouse. Hiss. As soon as he walked out of the treehouse, he heard a terrifying roar. It carried a strong smell of blood and rushed toward his head. Clang. Indra, who was on high alert at all times, had his right hand on Tiger Soul's slender hilt at some point in time. With a twist of his wrist, the blade turned and the golden blade was pulled out from its scabbard at lightning speed. Using the most concise method, it drew a beautiful arc in midair and slashed toward the top of his head. Crack. A jarring sound came from the blade as it cut into the flesh with great difficulty. The flesh was extraordinarily strong. Even though Tiger Soul was now a low-grade Earth-rank demon weapon, it felt a strong resistance when it cut into the flesh. Fortunately, Tiger Soul was known for its sharpness from the beginning. Among divine weapons of the same rank, no one could surpass Tiger Soul in terms of sharpness. This sharpness could even break the immortal body of an ancient giant. After a crisp sound, followed by a loud thud, two slender bodies fell down from the treetop. It's a golden-backed fiendish python. What landed on the ground was a 300-foot-long python. This python's body was covered with dense black scales. However, on the python's back, there was a golden thread that ran from its head to its tail. It looked abnormally demonic. Ming's attack had slashed the python's vital point. He was killed in one strike. This fiendish python seemed to be at least as strong as a great ancient demon beast. Gulu. With a soft sound, a fist-sized, pitch-black ball rolled out from the 7 inches of the python's body that had been cut open. It's a beast core. Lin Fan's eyes lit up. He reached out and picked up the black beast core. He held it in his hand and looked at it carefully. He could vaguely see a fiendish python swimming around in the beast core. He could feel a strong energy in the beast core. It contained the power of a great ancient demon that had just become a great ancient demon. Good stuff. Lin Fan took out an empty jade box and put the beast core in it. He then sent it back to his inner world. He did not let the fiendish python go. He quickly removed the black scales. The python's bones were good materials for making whips and other Dharma treasures. He did not leave anything out. He put all the useful materials in the jade box and sent them back to his inner world. Only a pile of snake meat was left in front of him. After thinking for a bit, he immediately gathered some dry firewood from the surroundings and lit it up. He cut the python meat piece by piece, propped it on the fire, and began to roast it. Although there wasn't any seasoning, under Indra's constant flipping, the flame evenly roasted every inch of the snake meat. After a while, there was a burst of alluring fragrance emitting from it. What a fragrant snake meat! I didn't expect to see it here. Haha, Gozi, am going to eat it. As soon as he said that, he saw a middle-aged man who was as thin as a stick of firewood. His face looked a little wretched, and he had 2 mustaches around his mouth. His eyes were rolling, and there was a shrewd light in them. His body moved, and he was about to pounce on the snake meat that was being roasted on the firewood. He stretched out his hand and directly grabbed it. Mitch, how dare you touch my things? I will chop off your claws. Sakura's gaze was sharp and he instantly saw the figure pouncing over. Without even thinking, he instantly pulled out Tiger Soul that was stuck beside him and chopped towards the pitch-black claw that was reaching over. Good fellow, you want to chop off my hand. However, it won't be that easy. Gozi could clearly feel the sharpness coming from the Tiger Soul. His expression changed. He quickly turned his wrist and turned it into a claw that was covered in hair. The sharp claw shot out and grabbed at the back of the Tiger Soul. He wanted to grab hold of the Tiger Soul. Di Shitian's reaction was even faster. He turned the blade and turned the chopping motion into a horizontal slash. This time, he slashed at Gozi's arm. He wanted to chop off his arm as well. Bang! At the same time, Di Shitian took a step forward. The momentum of the blade became even sharper. Clang! It was unknown how Gozi changed his move. He actually dodged his arm and used his claw to block the edge of the Tiger Soul. Amidst the sound of metal clashing against stone, A huge force was reflected on each of them at the same time. That huge force instantly caused them to retreat backwards. Bang bang! They took 2 consecutive steps to withstand that force. Gozhi also took 2 steps back. However, he casually moved his arm behind his back and used his body to block Di Shitian's gaze. If there was someone behind him at this moment, they would see that there was an obvious blade mark on his palm. What a sharp battle saber! It must be at least an earth-ranked divine weapon. To think that it could even break through my body. Although I have yet to reach the level of an undying body, my body is even tougher and stronger compared to those who have. This saber is truly a treasure. Gozhi was secretly shocked. The undying body was the embodiment of a realm. It meant that even if one's physical body was destroyed, one could regenerate. Being able to be reborn from a drop of blood didn't mean that the physical body's defense was the strongest. As long as one had a body-tempering technique and good luck, one's physical body could continuously become stronger. The undying body required one to destroy one's flesh, bones, blood, and meridians and merge them into one. Then, one would integrate one's will into it. Only then could one truly cultivate it. Therefore, a strong physical body didn't mean an undying body. It only meant that one was indestructible and had a strong defense. What a strong physical body! However, Sakura could clearly feel that the exiled one who suddenly appeared opposite him had already reached the demon saint realm. His physical body was so strong that it was even more terrifying than his own. He was definitely a strong opponent. But he didn't lose his fighting spirit because of this. Tiger Soul took a step forward and was about to attack. Wait, brother, you are also of the demon race, right? We are of the same race. Don't fight. I'll exchange your snake meat with a longevity pill, okay? When Gozhi saw that Di Shitian still had the intention to attack, he hurriedly blocked in front of him and shouted to stop him. He was astute and knew that if they really fought, it would end in a situation where both sides suffered great losses. Perhaps someone would take advantage of the situation. How could he be willing to make such a losing deal? Exchange for my snake meat and longevity pill? Di Shitian's blade stopped in its tracks. He looked at Gozhi, who'd suddenly appeared, with some confusion. That's right. If worse comes to worst, I'll just exchange it with a longevity pill. However, your snake meat should be the flesh of a goldenback demon python. This large piece is only worth a longevity pill. Gozhi had no intention of continuing to fight Di Shitian. He stared greedily at the golden snake meat roasting over the fire. He was so hungry that his saliva was about to drip out. He hurriedly flipped his hand and took out a life tablet that was exactly the same as Di Shitian's previous one. He called out, "Hurry up, brother. Let's make the deal quickly." What kind of deal? Di Shitian was a little confused. When he heard that the one in front of him was also an exiled demon, the killing intent in his heart calmed down slightly. This was a good opportunity to see if he could get any information about the exiled lands, as well as the distribution of power. These were all important things to survive in this place. You don't even know how to make a deal? Are you a newbie who's just been exiled? With Gozhi's shrewdness, he immediately guessed Di Shitian's origins with a single sentence. Then, he looked at the snake meat roasting over the fire. His expression of longing instantly vanished, replaced by one of awe. He said with lingering fear, "Thank goodness. I almost ate this snake meat as a delicacy. Newcomer, don't tell me you don't want to live anymore." Without the violet heart purity fruit as the main ingredient and the violet heart powder as the seasoning, you dared to eat the snake meat after the violent demonic chi in it has been purified. You really don't want to live anymore. This snake meat can't be eaten. Di Shitian couldn't help but frown when he heard this. He exclaimed in surprise. Of course not, unless you want to die. Gozhi clicked his tongue as he looked at Di Shitian, his eyes darting around. Is it because of the violent demonic chi inside? Heh, since you're new here, you probably don't know much about the affairs of the exiled lands. How about this? According to the rules of the exiled lands, this basic information can only be exchanged for 100 longevity pills. Seeing that you're a monster, I'll only take 50. You must know that in the exiled lands, Nothing can be obtained so easily. Everything has to be traded. How about it? 50 longevity pills in exchange for basic information about the exiled lands. Do you agree to this deal? Gozhi said with a chuckle. All right. Di Shitian didn't hesitate at all. All sorts of information about the exiled lands would definitely be of great benefit to his survival here. Smart indeed. When Gozhi heard this decisive decision, his gaze towards Sakura instantly changed greatly. He smiled and said, some of the newcomers just weren't willing to spend this sum of money and died in the land of exile within a few days. And those who were swapped were usually able to survive. You've made the right choice. Since that's the case, I'll first teach you how to use this natal tablet. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 718. Take out your natal heaven tablet. Do you see the number on it? When Gozhi heard Di Shitian agree to the trade, he immediately began to explain without any hesitation. If I didn't guess wrongly, that number should represent my lifespan. Di Shitian's heart moved. He took the natal sky tablet in his hand, nodded and said in a deep voice. That's right. When Gozhi heard this, he couldn't help but be a little surprised that he was able to guess this, but he still continued, every cultivator who is exiled here, under the rules of the exiled grounds, will condense a natal heaven token. The number displayed on this heaven token represents your lifespan in the exiled grounds. Every one of you, at the beginning, has a lifespan of 100,000 years. Once your lifespan is completely exhausted, you'll be considered to have completely fallen and usher in the 5 signs of celestial decay. Even an ancient powerhouse wouldn't be able to escape this and would fall under the 5 signs of celestial decay. Therefore, the lifespan on this natal heaven tablet is the foundation of whether or not you can survive in this exiled land. When he said this, his expression was unusually solemn. This lifespan was like a sharp sword hanging above one's head. It could fall down at any time. As expected, Di Shitian muttered to himself. Moreover, this natal heaven tablet is also a symbol of status in this exiled land. Only the owner can use it. The lifespan on it is the hard currency used in transactions in the exiled land. Then, Gozhi explained how to make the trade. Stacking the 2 natal heaven tablets together, Di Shitian transmitted a thought into his own natal heaven tablet and silently said, transfer 50 years of lifespan to the other's natal heaven tablet. Immediately, the 2 natal heaven tablets flashed with light. He could clearly feel something leave his natal heaven tablet and enter the other's natal heaven tablet. Then, he carefully scanned it. On the natal heaven tablet, the original 99,997 years of lifespan had been reduced by 50, becoming 99,947 years of lifespan. Haha, 50 longevity pills. That's enough for me to survive for another 50 days. When Gozhi saw that the transaction was completed, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of a smile. He took out a scroll made of beast skin and threw it to Di Shitian, saying, this scroll is called Exile Records. It contains all the basic information about the exiled land. Whatever you want to know, it's all there. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me again. Oh right, how should I address you, brother? That slash just now was really not bad. Di Shitian. After obtaining exile, Di Shitian leaned against an ancient tree and unfolded the scroll. The opening sentence, exiles, fighting against the heavens for fate, difficult, difficult, difficult. It was a short sentence, but it caused his mind to focus. It was as if the tragic scene of countless exiles fighting against the heavens in this world appeared clearly in his mind. A formless pressure surged toward him. 1 day in the exiled land consumes 1 year of lifespan. 1 day in the outside world is 1 year in the exiled land. When one's lifespan is exhausted, one will never decay. The vital energy of heaven and earth cannot be absorbed. Anyone who absorbs it will go berserk and explode to death. The lifespan in the natal heaven tablet can be used to gather pre-heaven vital energy and form longevity pills. 1 year of lifespan can be exchanged for a single longevity pill, which can be used to cultivate. 1 pill can be used to increase one's magical power by 1 year. Longevity pills can be stored in the natal heaven tablet to increase one's lifespan. Longevity pills are used as currency to trade items. The exiled land. The exiled land. The exiled city is surrounded by tribes of all races. Di Shitian studied the exiled outsider records, which he had purchased with 50 longevity pills. Gradually, he began to gain a basic understanding of the exiled land. The exiled land was a very cruel place to live. The cultivators who had been exiled from Essence Heaven and Earth had settled down in the southeast, where they had built the exiled city. Tens of millions of exiles lived there, and there were numerous tribes that had been established in the area, all of which were made up of people of the same race. After all, people of the same race felt a strong sense of belonging. Furthermore, the exiled land was home to countless beasts, all of whom had been exiled from Essence Heaven and Earth. There were even some who had taken root and transformed into beasts of the exiled land. Inside of them was a type of beast core. Beast cores contained immense power, and with the help of various other ingredients, it was possible for alchemists to concoct the most precious pill in the exiled land, the longevity pill. In the northwest, there were countless terrifying devil gods who had risen to prominence through all sorts of battles and slaughter. In a place like this, their ability to survive was even greater than that of the Essence Heaven and Earth's exiles. In the northwest, they had established the devil capital. It was a mortal enemy of the exiled land. Normally, if they ran into each other, it would immediately lead to a bitter battle to the death. There was no room for negotiation. Strangest of all, because of the strange laws of the exiled land, regardless of whether they were devil gods or exiles from the Essence Heaven and Earth, after they died, their understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth would strangely crystallize into fragments of great Tao. That was especially true of those who possessed divine abilities. The crystals contained even more fragments of great Tao. If one absorbed the great Tao crystals, they would be able to gain enlightenment from them. If they merged into weapons or magical treasures, they would be able to give them all sorts of strange abilities. There were many benefits. Everyone was trying their best to portray the cruelty of the exiled lands to the best of their ability. Furthermore, because they couldn't use their magical power, they spent almost all of their time in the exiled land cultivating their fleshly bodies. The strength of their fleshly bodies was immeasurable. Longevity pill, condense. After Di Shitian finished reading the entire exiled land, he took out his natal sky tablet and called out softly. Immediately, he saw the enormous amount of carnate vital chi in the surrounding heaven and earth suddenly pour into the natal sky tablet. Swoosh! Under a strange divine light, a human-shaped pill the size of a thumb suddenly emerged from the sky tablet. It looked like a child who hadn't even reached the age of 3. Its surface was crystal clear and full of charm, but it didn't emit any strange fragrance. He opened his mouth and swallowed it in one gulp. The longevity pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, turning into a pure energy that followed the circulation path of the Book of the Emperor, shocking the world. As it circulated, it turned into a purple-gold Emperor True Power. It entered the rank 9 Black Lotus. The Emperor True Power had indeed increased one's cultivation by a year. What a good pill! Not only does it have no impurities, but it's also extremely easy to transform. This is a pill formed by the accumulation of carnate vital chi from one's lifespan. It's truly extraordinary. The cultivation increased by 1 longevity pill is equivalent to 10 heavenly primary pills. This is exchanging one's lifespan for power. With just a little test, he could clearly sense the various wonders within. However, it was a pity that this was exchanging one's lifespan for cultivation. It was not an ordinary luxury. When Gozii saw Di Shitian put away the scroll, he rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "You've just been exiled here, so you probably don't have a real place to go. If you travel alone here, you'll encounter those ferocious beasts that live in packs. That's not an ordinary danger. We demons have built a tribe in the 100 Peaks mountain near the city of exiles. Why don't you come with me to the 100 Peaks Mountain and settle down for the time being? All right. Di Shitian thought for a moment, then nodded and agreed. He also wanted to see how the demons were doing in the land of exiles. He put out the firewood and looked at the sky. A pitch-black sun hung in the sky. According to the description in The Exiled Stranger, the ferocious beasts were the most active in the black sun. When Go Ziyi saw Di Shitian agree, he was also delighted. To be able to invite a new demon whose strength was not inferior to his, it was also a kind of strengthening of the tribe's strength. It seemed that he had lived in the land of exiles for many years and was very familiar with the habits of some ferocious beasts. Along the way, he avoided as much as he could. If he could not avoid, he would kill the ferocious beasts in front of him. Hunting for beast cores. Skinning for beast skins. Fortunately, Di Shitian's original location was not far from the 100 Peaks Mountain. Not long after, they arrived at their destination. This is the tribe where the demons gather. Di Shitian looked around and saw that at the foot of a towering mountain that was thousands of feet high, there was a village that covered thousands of feet and was built with all kinds of trees and vines. Inside the village, caves were dug out from the mountain peak. At a glance, there was no telling how many caves there were. In the village, a large number of demons could be seen walking back and forth. Many of them directly spread out a piece of beast skin on the ground and set up stalls. It seemed to be quite lively. The 100 Peaks tribe is the gathering place of the demons. Most of the exiled demons are here. There are a total of more than 100,000 demons. In the heyday, there were as many as 3 million demons. Unfortunately, after so many years, only the ones in front of you can survive. However, most of them are elites. The weakest ones are at the ancient Demon King realm, and most of them are at the ancient Great Demon realm. There are only 103 demons like us who have reached the ancient Demon Saint realm. The leader of our tribe is called Shuesha, and he is also the only ancient heaven demon who has cultivated an immortal body. As Go Ziyi spoke, he sighed with a melancholic expression. Let's go, I'll take you in. They walked to the door of the village. At the door, there were 2 demons who emitted a fierce aura and had the battle strength of a great demon. Under Go Ziyi's lead, after finding out Di Shitian's identity and knowing that he was a demon, they naturally entered the village easily. Once they entered, Go Ziyi smiled and said, "Brother Di, this is the 100 Peaks tribe. You can look around as you wish, but you will have to open up a cave residence yourself. In front of us is a market that is specially used for trading. If you need anything, you can trade there. Generally, it is best for newcomers to exchange for a body tempering technique and a physical transformation technique. For example, the 36 Heavenly Dipper transformations, 72 Earthly Fiend transformations, and so on. These will allow you to survive here. To be continued, if you want to know the rest, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 719. The market was the place where he saw many people sitting and setting up stalls outside. Seeing that Go Ziyi was about to leave, Di Shitian did not force him to stay. Watching his back as he left, he muttered to himself, "The market is the easiest place to see the various situations in this world. I should take a good look around and see if I can find some information." I found some clues. Also, according to Go Ziyi, there is a physical transformation technique in the market. I have never heard of this before. There was no such transformation technique in the ancient times. Could it be that the physical transformation technique was created here because of the uniqueness of the land of exile? He was secretly curious. If he remembered correctly, although he had heard of the heavenly spirit earthly demon transformation in myths and legends in his previous life, there was no such physical transformation technique in the land of origin since ancient times. This is a little strange. Ming said with interest, "It's not like the ancient era didn't have any transformations. As long as you have the immortal body, your blood, flesh, bones, meridians, and internal organs will all fuse into one. Every inch of your blood and flesh will be at your will. You can break up your body and turn into anything you want. However, this is an ability that can only be obtained when one is at least an ancient giant. Could it be that someone here specially created a cultivation technique for this? Let's go and take a look at the market. Won't it be clear? Di Shitian did not make too many guesses. With the land of exile restricting the use of one's dharma power, the exiles here had no choice but to focus on the cultivation of the body. Under the situation of cultivating the body, it was not impossible to create a physical transformation technique. In this world, there were innumerable geniuses with amazing talents. Think about it, one could not fly in the air here. If one could turn into a bird and grow wings, wouldn't one be able to fly in the void? Birds could fly. That was fate. As long as one did not use dharma power, even the rules of the land of exile could not restrict them. If one could turn into a phoenix, a roc, or a vermilion bird, their combat power would definitely be strong. Along the way, the demons that they met all had an indifferent look on their faces. They did not even talk much. Their eyes were filled with confusion and struggle for survival. However, each of them exuded a fierce murderous aura. It was obvious that they had been on the battlefield for a long time to have such a strong bloody aura. Every single one of them was struggling for survival. Walking into the market, Zhong Xian saw a street in front of him. On both sides of the street, there were many stalls with all kinds of goods on display. There were all kinds of beast bones and precious materials collected from ferocious beasts, such as pitch-black beast horns, sharp beast fangs, and scales covered in fine scales. There were also beast cores stored in jade boxes, various precious spirit essences collected, and even heavenly treasures excavated. They could all see it clearly. He casually looked around and suddenly saw a green-robed old man sitting in a remote corner with his eyes closed. He had a transcendent aura around him. He could not help but walk to the front of the stall and squat down. He casually picked up a horn that contained a strong icy aura. Looking at the mysterious patterns on the horn, he asked, "How much is this horn?" The green-robed old man lifted his eyelids and glanced at Indra before looking at the horn again. He said in a hoarse voice, "This is the ice devil horn on the head of the mystical ice devil rhinoceros. If you want it, I'll give you a longevity pill." "One pill?" When Di Shitian heard this, he could not help but be secretly surprised. "You must be new here," the green-robed old man seemed to see his surprise. After carefully sizing him up, he suddenly said, "That's right. No wonder you're surprised." When the green-robed old man heard this, there was some annoyance in his eyes. It seemed that if he had known that this was a new banished person, he would not have offered such a low price. However, since he had already said the price, it was obviously not good to change it now. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Are you thinking that if this rhinoceros horn was used to forge a magical weapon, it would be a good material and should not be sold at such a low price? Could it be because the banished land imprisons spiritual power?" Di Shitian understood immediately. When he saw the price of the rhinoceros horn and connected it to the rules of the banished land, a light flashed through his mind and he instantly understood. Here, spiritual power could not be used, and even the true samadhi fire could not be summoned. The difficulty of forging magical weapons could be imagined. These things may be abnormally precious outside the banished land, but here, they were materials that did not have much use at all. No one would be willing to pick them up even if they were thrown on the ground. The green-robed old man smiled and did not say much. Suddenly, he said, "Since you're new here, you must be lacking in body refinement techniques and physical transformation techniques. I have these ancient books here as well. Take a look and see which one you want." As he spoke, he waved his hand. Immediately, there were a few ancient books made of jade on the stall in front of him. When Di Shitian heard this, he could not help but feel excited. His main purpose in coming to the market was to see the body refinement techniques and physical transformation techniques. He quickly looked at them. Indestructible diamond body, mystical ice raging fire body, world cleansing glass body, star immortal body, withering glory immortal body, 5 elements body refining technique, 9 revolutions mysterious art, indestructible true dragon body, 7-2 earthly fiend transformations, 3-6 heavenly spirit transformations, vegetation transformation, earth transformation, bird transformation, 100-beast transformation. When he looked at them, Di Shitian could be considered to have read countless cultivation techniques and secret techniques. He could not help but be secretly shocked by the various divine abilities and battle techniques. Just by looking at the names of these cultivation techniques, he knew that they were definitely of a high level. Little brother, these body tempering techniques are all top-notch in the banished lands. Take a look at this indestructible body of the Vajra. It's an earth-tier body tempering technique. If you cultivate it to its peak, you'll be able to go head-to-head with an earth-tier weapon. The glass-purifying body of Vajra is an inferior-grade heaven-grade cultivation technique. When cultivated to the extreme, the body is so strong that even a heaven-grade magical weapon would not be able to break it. It can also tear open the space barrier of the banished land with its bare hands and break out of the prison in front of it. The 9 Revolutions' mysterious art is even more impressive. It was created by the Purple Lotus Sage, who broke out of the banished land with his own body and left with his own body. Legend has it that when cultivated to the 8 revolutions, one can break the sky with one hand. Break through the sky. This is a peerless heaven-grade cultivation technique. It has supreme power in body refinement. When the elder in green knew that Di Shitian was a newcomer, he immediately used his glib tongue and began to introduce the various cultivation techniques in front of him one by one. He wanted to close the deal. No matter who it was, as long as they were new, it was inevitable for them to buy a body refinement technique. In the end, he could not help but smile. Little brother, I have the most complete collection of cultivation techniques in the 100 Mountains tribe. Moreover, I have always been fair in my dealings. If you want to buy, I can give you a cheaper price. What do you think? TSK, these are all rare cultivation techniques. If this book was placed in the outside world, it would be a supreme treasure that countless cultivators would fight to the death for. I didn't think that they would be sold here. Hurry up and ask him how he's selling them. Dark called out excitedly. How much is the 9 Revolutions' mysterious art? Di Shitian pointed at the cultivation technique and asked without revealing anything on his face. Not much, just 90,000 longevity pills, the elder in green replied with a smile. Di Shitian was shocked. 90,000 pills. That was 90,000 years of lifespan. It was likely that only the newly arrived exiles would be able to afford such a sum of money. Then how about the 72 earthly fiend transformations? Not much, just 40,000 longevity pills. 36 heavenly dipper transformations for 20,000 longevity pills. Although the cultivation techniques in front of him were all very tempting, almost every one of them had a sky-high price. If he were to buy them, he would be cutting off a huge chunk of his own flesh. Too expensive. Sakra's mind turned and he stood up. He shook his head lightly at the old man but didn't make a move to buy it. Haha, if you want to buy, you can come again. The price of cultivation techniques in the exiled lands will definitely not be lower than what I have here. The elder in green didn't try to stop Di Shitian from leaving. Instead, he smiled faintly and closed his eyes again, sitting cross-legged to rest. Crazy Di, you have other plans? Ming asked thoughtfully when he saw Di Shitian leave as expected. I only have a little over 90,000 years of life. In this world, the most important thing is the lifespan. Using so much of my lifespan to buy a cultivation technique is not necessarily worth it. Moreover, I already have a rough understanding of the situation here. Cultivation technique? I don't need to buy them. Naturally, someone will deliver them to me. A mysterious smile tugged at the corner of Di Shitian's mouth, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. At this moment, there was a commotion in the market. Everyone, go and take a look. Something big has happened. The descendant of the Purple Lotus Sage, the Peacock Goddess, is selling herself to save her brother. What? The Peacock Goddess? Could it be the siblings Kong Wu and Peacock? I heard that the Peacock Goddess is already an ancient heavenly demon expert. Her brother is only one step away from becoming a heavenly demon expert. Why would she sell herself to save her brother? I heard that Kong Wu went to the 10,000 Poison Valley to pick the 5 elemental sacred lotus and collect all kinds of precious spirit herbs in order to ask the Pill Emperor to refine the legendary 9 transformations golden pill. I didn't expect that he would encounter one of the most terrifying beasts in the world, the 9-headed venomous dragon emperor. I'm afraid he's been poisoned. 9-headed venomous serpent emperor? I heard that it has 9 most terrifying poisons, one of which is the soul-devouring poison. Those who are poisoned will have their souls dissipated. It's terrifying. I heard that the peacock goddess has already been to the city of exile and sold herself to save her brother, but even Dan Huang couldn't do anything about it. Now, she's coming from one tribe after another. She's looking for the last glimmer of hope. It seemed that the peacock goddess and her brother were influential figures in the city of exile. The scene attracted a large number of demons. The descendant of the purple lotus sage? Sakura muttered to himself for a moment and also went with the flow as he walked forward. I was going to update earlier today, but the computer suddenly turned blue and flashed. I didn't save the chapter and more than 2,000 words were gone. I had to redo it. I've been busy until now. Sorry. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author and the original reading. Chapter 720. Based on what the green-robed elder had said, the purple lotus sage of the land of exile could be said to be a peerless genius of his generation. He was able to create a supreme body tempering technique like the 9 revolutions mysterious art and tear open the void with his bare hands. One could imagine how powerful his combat strength was. Once he broke free from the shackles, he would become a peerless master and a demon god. The bloodline that he left behind would definitely have a great influence in the land of exile. Furthermore, according to the demons around them, the siblings were in big trouble. They were poisoned and even in the city of exile, they could not get rid of the poison. I'm alone in the land of exile, and I'm new here. I'm unfamiliar with this place. If I have the chance to subdue the 2 of them, I'll be able to make use of their influence to gain a foothold. At that time, the plan I want to carry out will be guaranteed to be foolproof. Sakura was drifting along with the flow as he secretly thought in his heart. Ever since he understood the general situation of the banished lands, he realized that this place was simply a treasure trove for him. The materials that were expensive in the outside world could be said to be exceptionally cheap here. If he wanted to buy this place, he would obtain an unimaginable amount of wealth. Moreover, he had already thought of an earth-shattering plan in his heart. This land of exile will be the opportunity for the demon clan to soar. It will be the supreme treasure for us to rise. A prophetic thought sounded in his mind. In the marketplace, a group of demons was escorting the group. Before long, they saw a high platform in front of them. Many experts of the demon clan were gathered around the platform. However, none of them wantonly pointed or talked about the platform. They only looked at the platform and whispered among themselves. On the stage, there was a crystal ice coffin. The ice coffin was transparent, and one could clearly see the scene inside the coffin. Inside the coffin, there was a young man with a valiant face and a strange purple lotus mark on his forehead. He was sealed inside the coffin. Even though he was sealed in ice, one could still see the resolute temperament in him. It had a soul-stirring power. Such a man would be the center of attention no matter where he went. However, at this moment, his face was covered by a layer of strange purple aura. Countless black auras were faintly spreading from his body. Strange black lines and poisonous spots could be seen on his exposed arms. It was a ghastly sight. It was as if countless poisonous insects were nibbling away at his body. Beside the ice coffin, there was a young girl wearing a 5-colored feather robe with a veil covering her face. She gave off a naturally noble aura, and her eyes were filled with worry. Her figure and temperament were in no way inferior to Chen Shi and Bai Hu. If Chen Shi was described as graceful, elegant, and mysterious, the white fox was a natural beauty that could turn all living things upside down. The heart of the zither was pure and elegant. The young girl in front of him was noble and sacred. She naturally exuded a temperament that did not allow blasphemy. There was even a trace of arrogance between her brows. Just the fact that she was standing on the platform was enough to make all of the surrounding demons not dare to look directly at her. It was as if they were afraid of offending and blaspheming her. They actually have the bloodline of the Peacock clan. Judging from their auras, the purity of their bloodline is absolutely shocking. They must have awakened the Peacock clan's innate ability, the five-colored divine light. Unfortunately, this is the land of exile. Even if they have that heaven-defying ability, they can't use it under the suppression of the laws of heaven and earth. Otherwise, even heavenly demons would find it difficult to suppress them here, even though they are only demon saints. Ming sighed and said with a strange light in his eyes after he saw it. The Peacock clan was extremely rare in ancient times. Most of the origin continent had gone extinct. A true peacock had not appeared in the world for tens of thousands of years. He did not expect to see one here. They used ice to suppress the spread of the poison. However, from the looks of it, Kong Wu's poison is not ordinary. It's still spreading despite being sealed in ice. I have never seen a poison that can poison an ancient demon saint. Di Shitian's eyes were amazing. He could clearly see every change in the ice coffin. He was also inwardly awed. That poison was too overbearing. He had only seen it in the land of chaos. You want to save him? Ming had followed him for so many years and could already guess what he was thinking. If I can subdue the siblings, I can truly establish myself in the land of exile. Then, I can carry out my other plans. Di Shitian's confidence flashed, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. To him, this was an opportunity bestowed by the heavens. Brothers of the tribe, Peacock, have once stayed in the Bayou tribe. This time, my elder brother was accidentally poisoned by the nine-headed poisonous Jiao Emperor and is on the verge of death. If there is someone who can save my elder brother and get rid of the poison in his body, then I, Peacock, am willing to be your servant and never go back on my words. Although Peacock Goddess's expression was mournful, she still politely looked around and said in a low voice, "Moreover, the complete 9 revolutions mysterious art can be used as a reward. I only hope that someone with the ability can save him." Her words caused an uproar in the surroundings. Only the Kong siblings know the complete version of the 9 revolutions mysterious art. The rest of the techniques that are circulated outside are all incomplete. Only the first 6 revolutions are complete. The last 3 revolutions are all incomplete. If you can get it, it will be the most powerful body refining technique. 8 revolutions will allow you to become a heavenly demon. 9 revolutions will allow you to become an ancient demon god. 8 revolutions of a high-grade heaven-class body refining technique will allow you to tear a hole in space with your bare hands and leave the terrifying prison that is the land of exile. However, this technique has always been the most difficult to cultivate. It requires a large amount of yuan qi. Legend has it that one needs 1,000 longevity pills to enter the first revolution, and 10,000 for the second. This kind of consumption is too terrifying. A single longevity pill could instantly increase 1 year of cultivation. 1,000 pills were equivalent to 1,000 years' worth of energy. Using all this energy to cultivate one's body was an unimaginably extravagant act in the land of exile. Not many would be able to support it. Is there still no way? I've already been to the city of exile and visited most of the tribes along the way. The 100 Mountains tribe is one of the last places of hope. Is there really no way to cure the poison in my brother's body? No, I've been raised by my brother since I was young. No matter what price I have to pay, as long as there is a glimmer of hope, I must save him. The celestial peacock maiden stared blankly at her brother lying in the ice coffin. Her eyes flashed with a look of determination. She secretly made up her mind. Unfortunately, the various benefits she had promised were indeed very tempting. However, when they saw Kong Wu lying in the ice coffin with only 1 breath left, they all shook their heads inwardly. Even Dan Huang in the land of exile could not cure this poison. In this world where energy was restricted, no one would dare to boast that they could save him. Time gradually passed. More and more experts from the demon clan gathered, but they were all silent. No one dared to go up to the high platform. This situation made the peacock goddess' eyes grow dimmer and dimmer. Although she had already guessed that this would happen, seeing it with her own eyes still could not hide the disappointment in her heart. Is there really no hope? Her expression was full of despair. Thud. Just then, a steady and powerful sound of footsteps came from the high platform. The person walked up unhurriedly. The sound of footsteps immediately woke the celestial peacock maiden up from her disappointment, and she hurriedly looked over. Immediately, the first thing that came into her eyes was a simple and mysterious purple-gold mask. Gradually, as the person stepped onto the high platform, a majestic figure naturally appeared in front of her. For some reason, looking at the figure in front of her was like looking at an ancient mountain. There was a majestic aura naturally coming from him. May I know your name? Come up to the high platform. Can you cure my brother of the poison in his body? The peacock goddess' eyes lit up as if she was a drowning person who had grabbed onto a straw. She looked at Di Shitian and asked nervously. She looked as if she was afraid of hearing an answer that was different from what she had in mind. I'm Di Shitian. Di Shitian glanced at the peacock goddess indifferently. His gaze finally landed on the ice coffin. He said calmly, I know of a spiritual wine called the Myriad Poisons Dragonfly Wine. It is brewed with 10,000 types of poisonous herbs, poisonous insects, and precious spiritual essences such as dragonfly grass. It is an antidote to any poison in the world. The peacock goddess' eyes lit up. Di Shitian didn't pause. I also have a spiritual wine called the Resurrection Wine. It is brewed with resurrection grass as the main ingredient and countless other precious spiritual essences. It can bring the dead back to life. I have a spiritual wine called the Undying Immortal Wine. It is made with undying grass as the main ingredient. Sakura seemed to be talking to himself as he opened his mouth and listed out the different types of spiritual wine. Every single one of them was so powerful that it could be said to have an unimaginable effect. The peacock goddess looked at Di Shitian with sincere respect and said, Please save my brother, Mr. Di. I'm willing to serve you for the rest of my life. There's no need. What's the point of being a servant if you don't want to? Di Shitian looked at her with a half smile. I don't want you to serve me for the rest of your life. I just want you and your sister to be loyal to me for 100 years. After 100 years, you're free to leave. If they weren't willing, it would be a waste of effort to bind them for life. If he could get their loyalty for 100 years, he was confident that he could make them willingly submit to him, whether it was in the form of kindness or power. Furthermore, he would only need 100 years to complete his plans for the land of exiles. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 721. Given the Kong siblings' background, to make them willing to be servants for the rest of their lives. Even if they were obedient on the surface, they might not be willing in their hearts. If they really wanted to do something, if they did not put in any effort, what was the use of that? It was not Di Shitian's character to only bind them with the favor of saving their lives. Regardless of whether he could subdue the two siblings or not, he only needed 100 years of buffer time in the land of exile. That would allow him to completely complete his plan. Even if he could not subdue the two siblings in the next 100 years, this favor alone was enough to make them friends with their father, who must have reached the level of a peerless powerhouse. 100 years of loyalty. The celestial peacock maiden looked at Di Shitian in surprise. Indeed, in her heart, if anyone could save her brother, although he would be the benefactor of her and her brother, and this favor was greater than the heavens, she only intended to follow by his side and repay the favor. Since you saved my brother's life, we will repay you with 3 lives. In times of crisis, we will save him 3 times. After paying back 3 lives, the favor would be settled, and they would find an opportunity to escape. She did not expect Di Shitian to propose that they only needed to pay 100 years of loyalty. She could not help but feel surprised. As long as Mr. Di can save my brother, there is no reason for me to not agree, the celestial peacock maiden said. It was obvious that she wanted to see Di Shitian's methods first. Otherwise, no matter how magical the spirit wine was, she would not be able to win his trust. Since Miss Peacock Maiden has agreed, I will naturally save your brother's life. After saying that, Di Shitian walked to the ice coffin. Suddenly, he placed one hand on the ice coffin, and the other hand grabbed the celestial peacock maiden's hand without any warning. Before she could struggle with a thought, she suddenly saw that their figures had mysteriously disappeared from the high platform. This change caused the eyes of the surrounding demons to light up, and they burst into an uproar. How did they suddenly disappear? In the land of exile, there is no way to use divine powers or spells. All dharmic powers are bound by heaven and earth and imprisoned in the body. How could they disappear without a trace? No, I felt the fluctuations of the power of the world. Inner world. Yes, it had to be the inner world. That Di Shitian must have had his own independent inner world. They must have entered his inner world. Inner worlds. My goodness, there are only 3 people who have opened up inner worlds in the vicinity of the City of Exile. One is Dan Huang, another is the City Lord of the City of Exile, and the last one is Boy of Many Treasures. They relied on the independent ability of their inner worlds to enter their own inner worlds and use all kinds of methods to refine elixirs and divine weapons. Could it be that there's another exiled with an inner world in the land of exile? That's great. That guy is obviously from our 100 Mountain tribe. When he comes out, I'll ask him to refine a demon weapon for me. It'll definitely increase my battle prowess by at least 30%. Medicinal pills. I'm begging him to concoct pills. If he can concoct the longevity pill, then even if I have to go out and risk my life fighting those vicious beasts, it'll be worth it. It's better than watching my lifespan decrease. For a moment, the entire marketplace was in an uproar. Everyone's faces were brimming with excitement. In the land of exile, any powerhouse who possessed an inner world was the most valuable asset. Even if they had to risk their lives, they had to protect their lives. This was because an inner world was the only thing that could temporarily break free from the restrictions of the land of exile. Immediately, everyone stared expectantly at the high platform. They didn't care at all that there was no one on the high platform. The heavenly peacock maiden had an instinctive look of disgust on her face when Di Shitian suddenly grabbed her arm. Just as she was about to resist, she found that a strange force had wrapped around her body. The scene in front of her suddenly changed. When she looked again, she had appeared in a strange place. You have an inner world. Even though the heavenly peacock maiden was experienced and knowledgeable, she couldn't help but cry out in surprise. She quickly looked around and saw that she was in a barren land with a radius of 10,000 feet. In this land, even the yuan qi of heaven and earth was unimaginably thin. However, in the center of this land stood a strange altar. Countless malicious spirits were struggling on the altar. They seemed to be suffering a great deal of pain. From time to time, a malicious spirit would explode and die. It looked a little strange. Moreover, not far away, there was a towering ancient tree with true dragons, killins, and other creatures hanging on the tree. It looked even more incredible. The Dharma power in her body seemed to have been removed from a layer of invisible shackles, and she could operate it as she wished. Ha! The celestial peacock maiden exclaimed excitedly. Suddenly, 5 beams of divine light appeared behind her. The 5 beams of divine light were of different colors and emitted different auras, but they formed a complete cycle. As soon as they appeared, they presented a powerful aura that suppressed the surroundings. Fortunately, the divine lights disappeared as soon as they appeared. 5-colored divine light. Di Shitian had the 5-colored divine light himself, so he naturally understood it at a glance. The peacock maiden's expression turned serious. She looked at Indra with a different expression and became more serious. She respectfully said, "I didn't expect Mr. Indra to have such a rare treasure like the inner world. From the looks of it, Mr. must have a way to save my brother. I hope you can save him as soon as possible. Being in the inner world, Her confidence in Di Shitian immediately increased. To be honest with you, the spiritual wine that I mentioned just now does have the miraculous effect of bringing the dead back to life. Moreover, the 10,000 poisonous dragonfly wine does have the ability to cure any poison in the world. However, I have the recipe for the spiritual wine, but I haven't collected all the ingredients. Therefore, brewing the spiritual wine is definitely not something that can be done now. Di Shitian said calmly. The recipe for the 10,000 poisonous dragonfly wine was indeed in the wine god's treasure mirror, and it was the next type of spiritual wine that could be brewed. However, he had been busy exploring the myriad tribulations cave abode all these years. As for brewing the spiritual wine, he naturally put it aside for the time being. The ingredients for brewing the spiritual wine required the collection of countless poisonous herbs, poisonous creatures, and even precious spiritual essences such as dragon saliva grass. It was almost impossible to brew it immediately. What? The heavenly peacock maiden's expression changed drastically. She looked at the ice coffin and said, "Mr. Di, the poison in my brother's body won't last long. It doesn't matter. Although I can't cure the poison in your brother's body immediately, it won't be difficult for me to suppress it temporarily." Di Shitian waved his hand and smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a jade box appeared. He opened the jade box, and several turquoise source seeds of life appeared inside. He carefully picked up one of them and pressed it directly between Kong Wu's eyebrows, who was lying in the ice coffin. It strangely sank in and melted into his forehead. At the same time, a strong surge of vitality instantly spread out from his forehead. The turquoise divine light quickly covered his entire head and quickly entered his body to protect his heart meridian. The enormous life force instantly blocked the overbearing poison. It was a stalemate, preventing the poison from spreading further. Such a strong vitality. Could it be a source seed of life? The heavenly peacock maiden couldn't help but be overjoyed. When he looked at Sakura, he could not help but feel a deep sense of gratitude in his heart. The source seed of life was a treasure that was truly hard to find in this world. He had actually used it on his elder brother without any care. This kindness was already hard to measure. With the source seed of life protecting his body, the poison would not be able to spread again in a short period of time. In other words, her brother's life was temporarily saved. "Thank you, Mr. Di." This time, there was an obvious sincerity in her words. "There's no need to thank me. This is what I promised you before. This is my inner world, the heavenly punishment world. You can look around yourself. I still have some things to do." Di Shitian wasn't worried that the heavenly peacock maiden would do anything strange here. Thus, she was allowed to move freely here. After all, there weren't too many taboos in this inner world. He took a few glances at the Holy Spirit altar and found that there were 3 strong malicious spirits in the heavenly pool. They didn't suffer as much as the other malicious spirits. Instead, they were gradually adapting to the overbearing impact of the power of desire and the Emperor's Tao. They were showing signs of slowly merging with the 2 forces. It seems that the Holy Spirit is not far from being born. After seeing this, Di Shitian couldn't help but feel happy. Once the Holy Spirit was born, it meant that this barren inner world would be able to produce an endless stream of power of desire and Emperor's purple chi. At that time, the entire inner world would begin to transform. It would become something to rely on. After seeing the Holy Spirit altar, he didn't think too much. He sat cross-legged under the altar. He closed his eyes and circulated his cultivation method, nourishing his essence, chi, and spirit to the peak state. After a while, when his body's state reached the peak, Di Shitian thought to himself, "It's time. Success or failure depends on this. It all depends on the fate of the demon race." He took a deep breath and didn't hesitate anymore. An indomitable will emerged in his heart. His entire mind suddenly entered the void, and he began to search for a thread of connection in the unseen world. He was contacting the demon city outside the land of exile. In the demon city, he had separated a part of his primordial spirit and turned it into a black lotus. It merged with the entire ancient city and refined the entire ancient city as if it was a natal magic treasure. It was like a clone. The two were connected by blood. In his mind, there was a trace of connection that couldn't be severed. Even in the myriad tribulations cave abode, this connection had never been severed. However, after entering the land of exile, this connection became abnormally weak, but it still existed. This time, he wanted to rely on this trace of connection to connect to the demon city. He wanted to lay down a plan that would affect the demon race's eternal inheritance. Found it. The trace of connection in his mind was abnormally weak. Di Shitian carefully followed this trace of connection and constantly probed outwards. Slowly, he felt that his entire mind was constantly extending outwards. He didn't know how long had passed. Suddenly, his mind seemed to have broken through some kind of barrier. He suddenly broke through the barrier and felt the primordial spirit in the demon city. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 722. Oh no, the barrier between the land of exile and the outside world is wearing down my divine thought. I'm afraid I can't keep this divine thought after I sent it out. The moment Di Shitian broke the barrier, he clearly felt that there was a terrifying force that was constantly attacking and wearing down the divine thought that he sent out. The divine thought was like a thin thread that was being attacked wave after wave. The other end of the thread was connected to Sakra's spiritual soul. He could only feel a terrifying force constantly colliding against his spiritual soul, as if it was going to tear his spiritual soul apart on the spot. That kind of pain was many times more intense than the physical pain. One could see that on his forehead, beads of sweat were endlessly seeping out. The blood in his body was boiling. At this moment, he already knew that he would not be able to take back the divine thought that he sent out. However, compared to the plan in his mind, this divine thought was nothing. It merged with the Black Lotus in the demon city. The primordial spirit of the Black Lotus was a grade 9 primordial spirit. It was spinning in the core of the ancient city, constantly absorbing the vast primordial spirit between heaven and earth to refine the city. Below the Black Lotus, there were countless lotus roots that spread in all directions, directly taking root in every inch of the ancient city. It merged perfectly with the demon city. General of the Blood Massacre, listen to my order, seal the 4 heavenly gates. Di Shitian integrated his divine thought into the Black Lotus. Instantly, the entire situation in the demon city was covered under his mind. Nothing could escape his senses. In an instant, he realized that at this moment, the number of demon clan in the ancient city had reached 3 billion. Among them, there were many demon clan experts who had reached the ancient demon king realm. Obviously, the implementation of the All Demons Homecoming plan had almost completed the goal that he wanted to achieve back then. The Homecoming plan gathered most of the demon clan clansmen scattered in the universe. While he was secretly delighted, he did not hesitate to send a voice transmission to the General of the Blood Massacre, seal the city. Yes, Your Majesty. The General of the Blood Massacre, who was guarding the 4 heavenly gates, replied respectfully. Seal the southern heavenly gates. Seal the northern heavenly gates. Seal the western heavenly gates. East heaven's gate, seal. The 4 heavenly gates have been sealed. The sealing of the 1,000 demon city is complete. Emotionless voices suddenly rang out from all 4 corners of the 1,000 demon city, enveloping the entire ancient city. Immediately, the 4 gates of heaven closed at the same time. At the same time, the gates of heaven mysteriously disappeared. 4 invisible barriers appeared around the ancient city. There was no way in and no way out. Rumble. In the sky above the ancient city, 9 layers of thunderclouds rolled violently. The layers were distinct, completely enveloping the entire demon city. If one were to look at the ancient city from the outside, they would discover that the entire ancient city had strangely disappeared amidst the billions of lightning bolts. He could no longer see its true form. What's going on? How could the 4 directions heavenly gates be sealed? The voice just now? That's Di Shitian. The demon emperor gave the order to seal the city. No, I'm not a demon. I want to get out. Let us out. We won't stay in this 1,000-demon city any longer. We're leaving. Why did he suddenly issue the order to seal the city? Could it be that the demon emperor wants to kill everyone in the city who doesn't belong to the demon clan? Isn't he afraid of offending the myriad worlds? The sudden order to seal the city stunned the tens of millions of cultivators from all over the myriad worlds who were still gathered in the ancient city. But then their expressions changed drastically. They all looked at the position where the gates of heaven originally stood, only to find that the gates of heaven had disappeared. Many cultivators saw that there seemed to be no obstruction and could see the outside at a glance. There were no city walls either. They were about to rush out. But as soon as they arrived at the original location of the ancient city's gates of heaven, they felt that there was an invisible barrier in front of them blocking their way. When they crashed into it, it was as if they had crashed into an iron wall. At the same time, in the sky above the ancient city, countless divine thunderbolts smashed down on them. Their bodies were charred black. They were fuming with anger. His Majesty has ordered that the 1,000-demon city will be sealed at this moment. No one is allowed to enter or leave. The cold voice of the General of Blood Massacre sounded in the sky above the ancient city. The 100,000 Blood Massacre guards emitted a fierce murderous aura at the same time. The murderous aura gathered together, as if there was a god of death coldly watching every living creature in the city in the sky above the ancient city. This made many experts who were prepared to cause trouble secretly feel a chill in their hearts. They only felt that there was an invisible sword hanging above their heads. It intimidated the crowd of cultivators. It's His Majesty, it's His Majesty. His Majesty is indeed blessed. I told you that nothing would happen to His Majesty. Shitian is still alive. Chen Shi's anxious and gloomy expression in the jade pool suddenly relaxed, and a touch of joy appeared between his brows. However, he muttered, "Fortunately, you're alive. If you were dead, I wouldn't let the child call you father when he was born in the future. You don't care about the big ones, but you don't care about the small ones. That's great." Bai Hu also heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. After Diu brought them away, although they had returned to the demon city, she had been secretly blaming herself. She had completely blamed herself for the appearance of the unfettered king. During this period of time, even her face had become unusually haggard. The pressure on her mind was simply indescribable. If not for Di Shitian's natal heart lamp that had not been extinguished, she was afraid that she would even have the heart to die. I am now in an independent world and will not be able to return in a short period of time. This time, I am using my divine thoughts to transmit a message. All of the people of the 1,000-demon city, listen to my orders. Under the leadership of Tian Can and Huang Quan, immediately use all their strength, no matter the cost, to build the blood altar, and return my soul. I will not return, and the order to seal the city will not be lifted. A voice full of majesty enveloped the entire ancient city and spread to the ears of every living creature. When the last word fell, there were no other words. Poof! At the same time, Di Shitian, who was in the inner world, suddenly trembled violently. His face instantly became abnormally pale, and a mouthful of purple gold essence blood spurted out on the spot. The trace of divine thought that extended into the void was broken on the spot by the terrifying rules of the land of exile. In that instant, he felt as if his entire soul was about to be torn into thousands of pieces in an instant. That trace of divine thought was annihilated on the spot. Even his soul was severely injured. His entire spirit became abnormally dispirited. Lunatic Di, you really don't want to live anymore. The backlash just now could have directly blasted your soul into pieces. Given that you have not cultivated the indestructible primordial spirit, with your soul torn apart, you can't even switch to the ghost Dao. Although there was nothing on the surface, Ming, who had been carefully protecting him in the dark, saw the danger clearly. Even his voice changed a little. Just now, he had suffered a backlash from heaven and earth. The risk he had to bear was almost a hair's breadth away, and he would have died on the spot. Di Shitian did not have any lingering fear. He took a deep breath and glanced at Peacock. He saw that she was cultivating with her eyes closed not far away. He pondered and said, If this transmission across the world succeeds, it will be a credit to the demon race for generations to come. As long as the blood altar is built, I am confident that the overall strength of the 1,000-demon city will soar rapidly in a short period of time. Whether the demon race can rise again depends on whether my plan succeeds this time. Otherwise, it will be less than 5 years before the return of the 100 races and outside the land of exile. The situation of the 1,000-demon city is not optimistic. He was the emperor of the demon race. If the demon race was strong, the weight of his words would be different. Since he was sitting in that position, he had to plan for the entire demon race. Lunatic DI, why did you send a voice transmission to the 1,000-demon city to refine the blood altar? Ming asked curiously. He took such a huge risk just to send a voice transmission to refine the blood altar. This made Ming, who thought that he was experienced and knowledgeable, a little confused. He could not guess what exactly he wanted to do. What was his purpose? Not only do I have to build it in the 1,000-demon city, I also have to start building the blood altar. Di Shitian took a deep breath, and a mysterious color appeared in his eyes. Mr. Di, are you okay? The heavenly peacock maiden had woken up. Seeing Di Shitian's pale face, she could not help but ask. There was a trace of concern in her expression. I'm fine. As long as I circulate my cultivation method and recuperate, I'll be fine. Di Shitian took out the wine god gourd and poured a mouthful of heart-cleansing body wine, which was specially targeted at the divine soul. It had the effect of calming the heart, calming the mind, and nourishing the divine soul. He silently recovered his damaged divine soul. What wine is this? With just a sniff, my entire divine soul has become tranquil. The heavenly peacock maiden could not help but feel excited when she smelled the strange fragrance coming from the gourd. She felt that the spirit wine was extraordinary, and her confidence in Di Shitian's ability to cure the poison in her brother's body increased greatly. In the Lingxiao Palace of the 1,000-demon city. In the palace, Chen Shi sat on the phoenix throne, and naturally exuded the graceful and noble aura of the demon empress. In the main hall, King of Nightmare, Silver Hair, Tian Can, Huang Quan's 2 elders, Gord Luzi, Blissful Boy, and Xiesan Yang. Hu, Kai Hua, Bai Yu, and so on. Almost all the civil and military officials in the 1,000-demon city were gathered in the hall. In the hall, a solemn and dignified aura was naturally emitted. Chen Shi scanned the group of demons and said in a deep voice, His Majesty just sent a voice transmission across the realm. What do you all think? Do you know where His Majesty is now? Empress. Silver Hair bowed respectfully, and his eyes naturally revealed the light of wisdom. He said, Since His Majesty sent a voice transmission, I believe that there is no danger to his life. In my opinion, we should immediately follow the Demon Emperor's order and build the blood altar. Since this blood altar was personally entrusted by His Majesty, it must have an important function. Once it is built, we might be able to know where His Majesty is. Tian Can took a step forward and said with a serious expression, The blood altar is an ancient tomb that ancient cultivators built for themselves. It preserves the immortality of the physical body, the inextinguishable vitality, and the ultimate treasure to heal injuries. Legend has it that even if the cultivator died, he could leave a trace of his essence soul and blood essence in the blood altar. He could use the power of the blood altar to reform his body and be reborn again. His Majesty must have his reasons for asking us to build the blood altar. In my opinion, we should build it as soon as possible. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 723. Furthermore, His Majesty had ordered the Blood Massacre Army to seal the 4 heavenly gates and sealed the city from the very beginning. His intention was definitely to temporarily imprison those foreign cultivators in the city and prevent those spies from spreading news outside. Therefore, according to this old official's opinion, His Majesty's plan is very important and the blood altar must be of utmost importance. Who did not want to be left behind? He stepped forward and expressed his opinion. Chen Shi sat on the throne and quietly listened to the opinions of the demons below. He secretly weighed the pros and cons in his heart. When Hu finished speaking, he pondered for a moment and said, "In that case, I will immediately order the Blood Massacre General to lead 30,000 Blood Massacre Guards into the land of chaos. They will immediately kill the fierce beasts and use their flesh and blood to build the blood altar." The 4 gates of heaven were sealed off by Di Shitian personally. Although Chen Shi had the authority to lift the seal, he would not overstep this matter. The only ones who could freely enter and leave were the Blood Massacre General and the 100,000 Blood Massacre Guards. It was most suitable for them to kill the fierce beasts. The Demon Empress is wise. A series of respectful greetings came from the main hall. Tian Can, Elders Huang Quan, listen up. The forging of the blood altar is under your full responsibility. You must complete it in the shortest time possible. Chen Shi looked at Tian Can and Huang Quan again. After Di Shitian brewed the emerald blood amber wine, Tian Can and Huang Quan nourished their flesh and blood with the wine. In the city, various resources were continuously provided. The losses in their bodies were recovering day by day. Now, they were already ancient demon saints and were not far from the peak. They were already heavenly demons, so the bottleneck between demon saint and heavenly demon was almost non-existent to them. It seemed that they would be able to become heavenly demons in a short time. Yes, Your Majesty. For a time, all kinds of orders were given. The sudden sealing of the city caused the cultivators of the other realms in the city to panic. These people needed to be temporarily pacified. The demons that had migrated over from the other realms needed to be arranged a place to stay. They would also build a new mountain range called the Myriad Demon Mountain Range in the middle of the ancient city. They would plant all kinds of flowers, plants, and trees there, creating continuous mountain ranges and lakes, so that all of the spirit beasts and demonlings who had yet to become demons could cultivate and gather there. This was also the reason why the demon city did not have a source of vitality for the time being. Otherwise, once there was a source of vitality, not only could it support the continuous advancement of the demon city, but it could also allow the ancient city to develop an auxiliary space, or even a small chiliocosm, in which life could be born and a large number of demons could reproduce and grow. At that time, with the support of the lesser thousand realms derived from the demon city, the number of demons would continue to grow like a geyser. However, that would be a rather big test for the source of Yuan Qi. Because the lesser thousand realms were derived from the ancient city, the Yuan Qi in the lesser thousand realms would also be transported by the ancient city. If the source of Yuan Qi was not strong enough, it would not be able to support it at all. At that time, the lesser thousand realms would collapse. Of course, these were all things for the future. Under the sealing of the city, the demon city quickly began to operate. Countless demons were desperately trying to cultivate and increase their cultivation. At the same time, although the informants in the city were unable to send out the news of the sudden lockdown of the demon city, this strange action caused many of the forces that had been paying attention to the ancient city to secretly become suspicious. The land of exile. The 100 Mountains tribe. In the market of the tribe, a natural green pavilion stood in a remote corner. The pavilion had a total of 3 floors and stood tall. It did not look like a pavilion, but more like a refined magic treasure. On the pavilion, there were a few ancient characters, Treasure Pavilion. At this moment, there was an endless stream of people in front of the treasure pavilion. One by one, the demons walked into the pavilion with anticipation. At the same time, a large number of them walked out with faces full of excitement. Some held a saber in their hands, while others held a few large gourds. They were full of joy. Waves of discussion echoed in the surroundings. Mr. Di is really resourceful. Ever since he set up the treasure pavilion 3 days ago, there has been no shortage of treasures in it. There are so many spirit wines, demon weapons, and elixirs that I have never seen before. Mr. Di is so kind. He allowed us to use materials from the ferocious beasts to exchange for spirit wines, divine weapons, and elixirs. Those useless ferocious beasts' bones can now be exchanged for elixirs. A good divine weapon can save one's life here. It's because Mr. Di is one of us demons. Otherwise, if it were Danhuang and the others, they would not allow us to use these materials to exchange for divine weapons and spirit wines. They entered the pavilion and took a look. They saw a large number of shelves erected on the first floor of the pavilion. On them were all kinds of spirit wines, divine weapons, sabers, spears, swords, and staffs. Almost everything one could imagine was there. Each of them was of the mystic level. They were rare divine weapons. In the land of exile, there was a way to enhance the power of divine weapons. That was to integrate all kinds of crystal fragments into the divine weapons, which could make the divine weapon stronger. One could also choose to blood refine it into a divine weapon of life. These were the rarest treasures in the land of exile. Moreover, these could be exchanged with all kinds of materials, beast pills, spiritual essences of heaven and earth, or directly with longevity pills. Any strange item could be exchanged in the precious treasure pavilion. And in the pavilion, the celestial peacock maiden was guarding. With her around, the treasure pavilion was as stable as Mount Tai. At this moment, Di Shitian was in the inner world. He sat down cross-legged, holding a crimson crystal in his hand. The crystal was the same as other crystals, in the shape of a hexagon. It was the size of a fist, and within the crystal, there were countless fiery red talismans that constantly flashed. Each talisman seemed to contain profound principles and the great Tao. However, many of the talismans were not complete at all. Most of them were incomplete. This is the crystallization of the Great Path, a nomological fragment. Di Shitian silently felt the talismans contained in the crystal in his hand. He could clearly feel that it contained a Great Path nomological fragment related to fire. However, the nomological fragment within was incomplete. What he comprehended was not complete. It is indeed very magical. He muttered to himself, if I can have the crystallization of the Great Path of Desire and the nomological fragment, my understanding of the Path of Desire will definitely be more profound. Once absorbed, it will be like directly plundering the nomological fragment contained in the crystal. This method is simply a shortcut. It was easy to cultivate, but difficult to raise one's realm. Now that he absorbed a Great Path crystal, he could directly obtain the comprehension within and convert the nomological fragment within into his own comprehension, directly raising his realm. This kind of thing was simply inconceivable in the universe. It had never happened before. Perhaps in the entire chaos world, such a miraculous thing could only occur in the land of exile. If one died here, the cultivation methods they cultivated and the insights they gained from their various supernatural powers would turn into great Tao crystals and lore fragments. It had to be said that the creation of heaven and earth was miraculous. Even a ruler would find it difficult to completely understand it. The Tao of heaven was to take from what was in excess and make up for what was in deficiency. This land of exile is indeed cruel, but it is also very magical. Ming nodded to herself after she saw the Tao crystal, and she said, however, Madman Di, you've cultivated the Emperor Shock the World, and you've mainly cultivated the Tao of Emperors and the Tao of Desire. You probably won't be able to find many Tao fragments in the abandoned lands. Moreover, this method of plundering is completely a shortcut. If you rely on these nomological fragments to raise your realm, there may be hidden dangers in the future that will obstruct your path to the peak. There was a trace of worry in his words. This method of raising one's realm was really too easy. There was no free lunch in this world. The more beautiful something was, the more thorny it was. Which one of those who could reach the peak didn't rely on their own continuous improvement to achieve it? Don't worry, I've never thought of using these nomological fragments to raise my realm. Di Shitian naturally wouldn't be short-sighted. Even if there were no hidden dangers, he wouldn't use this method to raise his realm. Only by experiencing it himself could he truly understand the profound principles behind it. However, after seeing these nomological fragments, another idea formed in his mind. With a wave of his hand, a simple and unadorned jade box appeared in front of him. He opened the jade box, whoosh. Immediately, a soaring spiritual light burst forth from the box, and a ball of liquid the size of a soccer ball rushed out. Inside, it revealed a kind of innate divine charm. There was a streak of carnate inextinguishable spirit light circulating continuously inside. There wasn't the slightest trace of acquired qi. Carnate spirit embryo. Di Shitian took a deep breath and stared unblinkingly at the ball of liquid in front of him. Most importantly, there was a streak of carnate inextinguishable spirit light exuding a strange charm. It seemed to have a mind of its own. It was the carnate spirit embryo that he'd snatched from the myriad tribulations cave abode. The reason why the carnate spirit embryo was called that was because there was a streak of carnate inextinguishable spirit light inside. This spirit light was the key to the spirit embryo. All carnate spirit treasures contained carnate divine seals within them. The carnate divine restriction was derived from the carnate inextinguishable spirit light. Therefore, this inextinguishable spirit light was the foundation of the carnate divine restriction. Otherwise, there were many carnate materials born in the chaos. Why weren't they carnate spirit embryos? It was just that this carnate inextinguishable spirit light was missing. Generally speaking, those who obtained carnate spirit embryos would find all kinds of precious spiritual materials according to their own conditions and fuse them into the carnate inextinguishable spirit light to nurture the carnate divine restriction. Moreover, the carnate divine restriction that was born would be most suitable for them. It would become a carnate spirit treasure. What materials were fused into the carnate spirit treasure was extremely important. For example, if a carnate yin fiend stone was fused into the carnate spirit treasure, it would definitely contain a terrifying amount of yin energy after being refined into a carnate spirit treasure. Di Shitian had heard all of this from Ming before, so he wasn't unfamiliar with it. Looking at the carnate spirit embryo, a strange expression appeared on his face. He muttered to himself, "I didn't expect it to appear in a strange world like the land of exile. It seems that heaven's will is destined for me to refine a source of vitality that has never existed since ancient times." To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.